This regular meeting of the Mount Horeb Area School District Board of Education will come to order. The time is 7 o'clock. Roll call. Danny?
Here.
Diana?
Here.
Jeff? Here. Jessica?
Here.
Kimberly?
Here.
Leah?
Here.
Thank you. Dr. Salerno, can you certify that this meeting has been properly noticed?
It has.
Thank you. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance together, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a volunteer to read the mission statement. Hearing none, I'll read the mission statement. The Mount Horeb Area School District, in partnership with the community, is dedicated to nurturing, educating, and challenging all students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, and self-fulfilled members of society. Item 2A, approval of the agenda. We're going to make a revision to the agenda. We'll move our student spotlight from item 6A to item 3A, or right after 3A. Is there a motion to approve the revised agenda? So moved. Jeff is moved.
Motion to approve the second, Kimberly.
And Kimberly has seconded a motion to approve the revised agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carried, and the revised agenda is approved. Item 2B, approval of the September 21st, 2020 regular meeting minutes. Did I hear what did I hear?
Second, Kimberly.
Kimberly has moved. Second.
This is
And
Jessica.
Jeff
I will
has
second.
seconded a motion to approve the September 21st regular meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and the September 21st, 2020 regular meeting minutes are approved. Item 3A, school news. Dr. Salerno.
Well, good evening, board members and everyone listening into the call tonight. Boy, we have a wonderful new student representative on the call with us this evening. I'm referring to Catherine, she goes by Kate Geisler. Kate is a senior in our school, and I thought maybe I'd just take a moment to introduce you to Kate, as her history and her academic prowess is just absolutely outstanding. Kate is currently participating in 3 advanced placement classes, including AP Bio, AP Calc, and AP English Lit. And as if that weren't enough, she's also decided she wanted to participate in Spanish 5 during her senior year. No wonder she's a part of the National Honor Society, been a member of DECA and our varsity soccer team, as well as 1 year, if I remember right, I saw you in a musical, Kate. She's just an absolute delight, and I want to extend a note of gratitude to all of our board members who joined a call with us this past Wednesday morning to interview really a bumper crop of outstanding young leaders. And so I defer to our new friend and student representative on the board, Kate Geisler. Kate, what do you know? Anything happening in our school lately?
Yeah, for sure. So a few weeks ago on September 16th, actually, the seniors got together for a socially distanced senior sunrise at 6:15 in the morning, so bright and early. And it was just a way for all of us to see each other in a way that was safe during this time. And about like 30 people showed up and we stayed our distance. And it was a really great opportunity for students to get to see the people they may not normally see in their little circles at home or in their everyday lives. Second, unfortunately, we don't have a homecoming, and last year, today actually, that was our homecoming dance. But we are continuing on with our Spirit Week, which is next week actually, to keep up with the school spirit during COVID. And those themes are Red Day, Class Color Day, Hat and Sock Day, and Sports/Extracurricular Day. So I know all me and my friends are looking forward to that. And finally, actually something I'm trying to put together right now is a virtual health series event type thing for students interested in healthcare careers. So I'm working with Mrs. Nessheim and Mrs. Clark to put together sort of separate sessions based on different medical specialties, or for example, like dentistry or pediatrics or anything that students may be interested in. And they could attend these sessions with doctors who work at UW, just people that Mrs. Clark has contacts with. And I think it would be a great opportunity for students to get some insight into what a career in healthcare is actually like, especially during this time of chaos and COVID. So that's all.
Well, that's really outstanding, Kate. And once you get those details put together, won't you please share them with us so we can be sure to push that out to our fellow students and those who are on the call here tonight? Very clearly, you can see why Kate was selected for this important role. What a delight you are. And I want to also extend a note of gratitude to several other student leaders who accepted the call to serve. On our finance committee, we have 3 students who have expressed interest: Maggie, Molly McGuire, Iris Murphy, and Clara Trinnell. On the education committee, by the way, we just had our education committee just a few minutes ago. Tess Purin and Margaret Harvey joined our call. And our community and legislative engagement team will now include Mary Harvey. And then lastly, our safety and wellness committee is well served by the continuation of Emma Gundrum, who is a senior this year. I know you join me in thanking these civic-minded leaders for their willingness to join this important work. Just a couple of other items, if you don't mind. We are now beginning our annual coats drive, our winter coat drive. That'll take place from October 7th through the 28th. Please feel free to bring your donations to the main entrance of any of our buildings Monday through Friday. There's going to be a bin out front in front of these buildings, only when staff members are present. What kinds of things are accepted? Well, gently used and clean winter coats, snow pants, boots, gloves, and the like. And it can be for kids and for adults. It need not just be for children. Please allow me just to extend a note of gratitude to Megan Miller, who is our K-5 school social worker. Oh boy, did we get a gem when we brought her on board last school year, and you can see our community is going to benefit from her efforts, I should say. And lastly, as a former math teacher, I'm going to give you a bit of a math question tonight. Strong schools plus strong school boards equals strong communities. And please join me in thanking our Board of Education, as October 4th through the 10th is WASB School Board Appreciation Week. Tonight is just the latest example of all of the efforts that our board undertakes in order to ensure that we're protecting the interests not only of our students, but our beloved staff. We thank you for your gift of time and your high sense of mission, board members. You continue to have a very positive impact on all facets of this district. So thank you and congratulations.
Great, thank you very much, and welcome to you, Kate, from the whole board. I think I can speak for the whole board in saying welcome to you. Is there any other school news? Now let's move to our student spotlight.
Well, boy, do we have a great way to kick off our student spotlight for this upcoming school year. Katie Howdy, you're on the call. Can you introduce us to SB?
Absolutely. So I am so excited, board members and community members, to share our student spotlight tonight. So Esperanza is a 5th grader in Mrs. Sadkovich's class. And Esperanza, SB, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind unmuting and saying hello so everyone can see, can meet you. We made a visit last week to share our spotlight recognition with Esperanza and her family. So Esperanza, there's a lot of reasons why we chose her for our IC Student Spotlight, but the first of them is that Esperanza is a very avid writer. She is currently working on a novel that she will share chapters from time to time with her teachers. She has also participated in several of our writing contests and challenges that Mrs. Parmalee will put on. And she has, of course, goes above and beyond in writing assignments in the classroom. She's a fantastic artist. She has designed classroom posters, new book covers for books. She draws pictures with emotions and humor and personality and gives them freely to others. In fact, a drawing from last year is still up on her fourth grade teacher's refrigerator. Mrs. McAteer treasures that drawing that Esperanza gave her. She's active in orchestra, and she participated in, she took speaking parts in the last couple of years' music performances. But most importantly, she is a leader in kindness and respect. Miss Lou, our art teacher, shared a story where when she challenged students to share 2 to 3 notes of appreciation, Esperanza needed to write 13 notes because that's how many people she had on her mind, and wrote them kind messages. In the classroom, her teachers share that she encourages everyone's abilities. She has a growth mindset. She's kind to all. She's positive, and she's outgoing. When we welcome new students to the IC each year, we share the book Only One You, and we talk about sharing the message that there's only one you in this great big world, so go out and make it a better place. And I'm very pleased to share just how many ways Esperanza makes the IC a better place just by being who she is. So, Esperanza, do you have a chance to unmute and turn your camera on? Here she is. Hi, Esperanza. Congratulations. We are so pleased that you could join us. We are so proud of your participation here at the Intermediate Center, and we just feel so lucky to have you as a student. Thanks for being a Viking.
Thank you.
Great. Well, congratulations. Your recognition tonight seems to be well earned, that's for sure. Is there anything else under 3A school news? Awesome. Thanks again for being here. Great job. All right, let's move to 3B. And everyone by now knows the telephone number. If you wish to speak, please text your question to 608-250-9166. 608-250-9166.
And we have a couple of folks who have already texted in earlier today. Is Troy Gagner on the call tonight? Troy?
I am, thank you.
Hi, Troy. Go ahead, please.
All right. Yeah, well, my name is Troy Gagner. I am an engineer and I own the firm Core Incorporated. My wife is Brooke. She's a first responder here in St. County, so neither one of us are able to work from home. We have 2 kids here in the Mount Horeb school system, with one of them being in kindergarten and the other in 4th grade. Each day, one of us will take our kids to the Little Viking daycare, so they will end up being dropped off in a small, compact classroom, with some of them being separated by sheets and 4 cubicle walls. At any given time, Little Vikings has 135 kids, with between 25 and 35 staff members in it every single school day. They sit elbow to elbow with daycare teachers helping them navigate the frustrating technology. There has to be more daycare teachers than there would regular teachers, as you can imagine, 5-year-olds trying to run a computer with all this distraction. We witnessed grandmas and grandpas dropping off and picking up our kids in a kid's tier, and that come with a frustrating situation. So let's sum that up. We are harming our kids while witnessing more exposure for teachers, albeit daycare teachers, more exposure to our elderly, who are the ones we need to be protecting, all while paying at least $500 per week. We know our school provides a safer environment for safety, and we certainly know it would be much better for their relationships, identity, emotional skills, and overall well-being. My wife and I understand there are risks, as we, and mostly her, are witnessing this every single day. That all being said, not one ounce of us think we should continue virtually. We respectfully ask that we allow our children back in the classroom as soon as possible, and I very much appreciate you letting me speak tonight. And I get a test. I might understand about 50% of the words that are coming through here virtually, so I apologize if I didn't come through very clearly. Thank you.
No, we sure heard you. Thank you very much. I'll just remind you the telephone number while we're drawing up the next name. 608-250-9166 is the number to text your name to, so that you can be included in citizen comments.
Yes, and Chris Eichelman, please. Chris Eichelman.
Hi, I'm here. This is Chris Asselman.
Oh, excuse me, Ms. Eichelman.
That's okay. So I am also a parent here in the district. I'm working full-time as my husband does as well. We have 4 children in the district, 2 of which are middle schoolers and 2 of which are at the PC. I feel it's really important to get them back to school. I'm here every day working from home, watching them. I get concerned more each day as I watch and see them have a lack of motivation, lack of engagement, the development of poor work habits, and just an overall dislike of school. I could go on with this list. It's really hard for me to see my kids struggle in the ways that they are, all 4 of them in different ways, at different points in their lives, but all struggling equally. I feel my kids and many others need to be back in the classroom, and I would really appreciate any and all effort that the board and leadership of the district could do to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
And welcome to Kristen Karz, K-A-R-C-Z. Kristen Karz.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, we sure can. Good evening.
Okay. Hi. A lot of you have heard from me either via email or on messages. Kristen, and I'm a mom of 3 with 2 school age, so first and second graders. Working full time, doing my best, as we all are, in these challenging times. Unfortunately, my and our best is just not good enough for our holistic community, for our children. I've spent countless hours and sleepless nights over the past 7 months researching, tracking, and arming myself with knowledge that alleviates the fear of COVID-19 by balancing it with life's many other risks and unknowns. I strongly believe our children need to return to school. My research shows a different path from the one we are on. The fear has clouded our judgment and paralyzed us to only care about a single health issue. We can no longer ignore holistic health, especially for chronic disease management and mental health. We can no longer ignore that our children's virtual education is both inferior to in-person, as well as detrimental to their mental health. Among those youth ages 1 to 26, suicide is the second leading cause of death. The medical professionals state to reduce the impact of adverse childhood experiences like the lockdown and promote social emotional development. Our own DHS Wisconsin promotes a zero suicide approach, promoting healthy communities by increasing social connectedness in multiple settings, including our schools, our workplaces, and community, faith-based areas, and cultural and social organizations. There are award-winning and extremely intelligent physicians, epidemiologists, and health providers populations and own healthy children themselves are continuing all these restrictions. A strong immune system relies on normal daily exposure to microbial influences and overly hygienic measures and distancing are detrimental to our community and long-term health. The current crisis management has become totally disproportionate to the risk and causing more damage than good. My own two lovely children are brought to tears at least once a week, crying about school, missing their friends, and wanting to go back. The novelty of virtual has worn off, and my kids are no longer excited about school. They have amazing teachers, but it's still not enough. Please vote for the kids to return to school.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Carter. We appreciate your comments. I apologize. Many of us on the call tonight were having difficulty hearing your thoughtful reflections, and for that we apologize. Might be some issue on either one of our two ends, but suffice to say, I know that you have been a great communicator with me and the school board, and in your support of wanting to return to school. Of course, we welcome continued communication from you and others who else are on the meeting tonight. And speaking of which, Mr. Heiss, our next speaker tonight is Chad Casey. Chad, are you on the call?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you. Can you all hear me? Just give me a thumbs up. Wonderful. Hey, just a quick comment. No doubt this is a very difficult time. There's no blueprint for how to educate through COVID. At this time, I just think it's important we start looking at options. And I don't know what that is, but I think being in school is important. And that's just how I'll leave it.
Very good. Thank you, Chad.
And welcome to Jim Myers tonight. Good evening, Jim. Hello, Jim Myers.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
You betcha. Go ahead. Good to hear you.
Okay. Again, my name is Jim Myers. My address is 9290 Kelsvig Road. I am a financial advisor and my wife Jamie is a nurse. We both work full-time supporting this community. We have 3 children, grades 4, 2, and kindergarten. I'd first like to thank the Mount Horeb District teachers, staff, administrators, and anyone else who has played a role in the start of the 2021 school year. Your hard work has not gone unnoticed. You have delivered a virtual platform that will work to support those who wish to continue 100% virtual option and will serve as an acceptable backup when needed. I'd also like to extend a tremendous thank you to the teachers, staff, and administration at our community child care centers and learning pods, including but not limited to Hearts and Hands, Academy of Little Vikings, A Time to Grow, Ginnon and Virtual Learning, and all others who have stepped up to support our children of this community. You have been asked to take on a massive task for the benefit of this community, and you have done so admirably. As the Board of Education tonight, you will be making a decision that will impact thousands of people. As a community, we simply want a plan, a direction, a set of rules to the game. We have been told countlessly that we are following the guidance of the Madison-Dane County Public Health. We ask that you do just that. On August 18th, Madison-Dane County Public Health indicated it was permissible for K-2 schools to return to school. This would be the first step in returning these students to the classroom. Your procrastination in following this guidance, along with your inability to provide any sort of plan, has left everyone wondering what will come. If you make the decision to go against the guidance of Madison-Dane County Public Health, you will be leaving us all in the dark to when, if ever, you truly intend to put any students back in the classroom. By not following the guidance, you are demonstrating that you have been leading us on the entire time and knowingly giving the community of our children false hope. There's nothing worse for mental health than this. We started this meeting by reciting your mission statement. In your very own mission statement, it states, the Mount Horeb Area School District, in partnership with the community, is dedicated to nurturing, educating, and challenging all students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, self-fulfilled members of society. There is no mention of anyone but students. Your very first belief statement simply reads, Children are the reason we are here. I want to remind you that your sole responsibility is to represent the 2,388 students of the Mount Horeb Area School District. It is not to advocate for one demographic over another. You are not representing working parents, you are not representing single parents, and you are not representing a teachers union. You are representing the entire 2,388 students that make up this district. When contemplating the decision to return our K through 2 students to the classroom, we simply ask that you follow the guidance of the experts. Neither you nor I are medical doctors, nor do we have the expertise to interpret the overwhelming amount of data that is coming at us daily. Tonight during this meeting, you may hear others trying to cite specific statistics, reference what other communities are doing or are not doing, or citing articles that adhere to their beliefs. We ask that you trust the experts. As the night continues, you're going to see a presentation that is going to ask, how are the kids? All I want you to think of is this image of my 7-year-old daughter crying because she's been kicked off yet another class meeting. The teachers will then present, and please take note that the majority of the teachers wish to return in accordance to the public health guidance. There is not a solution that will appease everyone, but know that there are very talented principals, directors of departments, teachers, all led by Dr. Salerno to navigate these decisions. By choosing to ignore the guidance set forth, you are indirectly questioning their ability to carry out this plan and do their job. You are sending a message to us that we cannot trust them. Finally, there is not one solution that will make everyone happy. I ask that you do what is best for our students. If you vote to return students to classroom, the district has 4 weeks to prepare. Over those 4 weeks, many things could change, possibly even for the better. But if we don't start taking the appropriate steps now, we will never get there. I have one request for every board member planning to vote down the motion for returning K through 2 students to the classroom. I would like you to go around to every child care provider, whether it be a teacher, at a center, or in-home provider, look them in the eyes and thank them for keeping our community running. Tell them that rather than work with the district to address the safety concerns of our teachers, you felt it was easier to ignore the guidance from our public health officials and just shift all the risk and responsibility to them. Together, we will get through this. There will be obstacles along the way, but as you choose to procrastinate further, the world will continue to spin without us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Again, the number to text your name to participate in citizen comments is 608-250-9166.
Thank you. And just as a friendly reminder, the chat feature that you see here tonight is not one that we'll be able to follow this evening. So we ask that people do refrain from entering in any specific feedback they have, but use this process instead. And so we're welcome Becky Nelson to the call tonight. Good evening, Becky.
Good evening. Thank you to the board. I'm a parent of 3 children in the district. I do not believe virtual schooling is sustainable. We need to start somewhere in order to move forward, and I believe that our K through 2 kids that are ready should return to the classroom for more reasons than I can possibly name tonight. I feel strongly that we have to start this process so that kids get something meaningful out of this school year. We also need to accept there will be a need for check steps and adaptations throughout this entire process as we work towards a day when all of our kids are back in school full time. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
And good evening to Ann McHugh, who I think is on the telephone this evening. Ann, can you hear us okay? Ann McHugh?
Can you hear me? Sorry, it sounds like my phone isn't working. Take that out. Sorry. Okay, so my name is Ann, and my husband and I have 4 kids, and he's a physician's assistant, and I'm a nurse. So clearly we're gone a lot, and the kids are working from home. But first, I guess I first wanted to say to everyone, you know, thank you to all of you for A, letting us speak, for B, for working through these uncharted waters. I mean, it hasn't been easy on anyone, and that doesn't go unnoticed. However, my husband and I are both gone a lot. My mom, who's 76, is driving 2 hours a day, 2 to 3 days a week to try to help us. I worry about the winter months of coming up to have her continue to help, but I don't know what else to do. Like I said, with 4 kids, some days are really good, and some days I want to cry with the kids. And I'm not going to lie, I have. I see lack of structure with them, and not the teachers. The teachers are incredible, but just like a lot of them they do so much better with that routine. You know, I see some self-worth going down the tubes. You know, they miss their friends. I had one of my kids crying the other day. They miss their friends, and my daughter, who's one of the most motivated human beings on the face of the earth. You know, I've seen some lack of motivation with her. And of course, that mental health. I was a mental health nurse for 3 years at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, and I've seen it on the forefront. I'm so worried about it. I have friends that are worried about their kids and have called me and said, what do I do? How do I help them? It's so important to get the kids back in school. And that's coming from me as a nurse. You know, I see in the forefront, I see the COVID-19 patients. I see how it can affect them. But I also see these poor kids, their daily struggles, my daily struggles. You know, like I said, I've literally cried with them. Today, I was trying to help my 7-year-old, and I'm trying to help him. And then my 6th grader's like, Mom, I need help. And so I run to go help him. And I'm asked my 9-year-old to go help my 7-year-old. You know, it's like, it's not ideal. And I know it's not ideal for anybody, but again, thank you for all you do. And thank you for letting me speak my mind.
Thank you very much, Ann. Thank you, Ann.
And thank you to you and your husband for being on the front line. I would agree how deeply appreciative we are of the service you're providing to our community. And good evening to Cassie McMillan. Hi, Cassie.
Hey, good evening. I just want to make sure you can all hear me, because I know the first 3 callers, many of the people couldn't hear. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. All right. And if I become not clear, please let me know and I'll stop. I'm speaking in favor of resuming in-person instruction. And I am speaking for many others who feel that same way, but are worried about retaliation or stigmas that might be associated with their public comments. So they have chosen not to speak tonight. It's a real thing. You are going to hear tonight, school board, that some people think it's not safe to go back. People didn't feel safe in July either. When is it going to be safe? 100% virtual learning is not sustainable. The kids of Mount Horeb are falling farther and farther behind with every week. K2 is in session in Dane County, in Verona, Belleville, Cambridge, McFarland, Waunakee. Almost all other schools outside of Dane County and daycares in Mount Horeb and across Madison are open and safe. How is it not safe for Mount Horeb? Janelle Heinrich, the Director of Public Health, Madison-Dane County, on Thursday said in a press conference, and I quote, "We are not seeing transmission in classroom settings." What is Mount Horeb waiting for? School board members, I know you have received many emails, so I ask you to remember what all those emails said and the personal stories that were shared with you. Listen to what the majority of parents are asking for in-person instruction to resume at some level. Those are the people who voted you into this board position, who trust you to do what's right for our kids. The parents determine what's safe for our own children, not you and not their teachers. The parents who feel it's not safe will have the option of staying virtual. Can we please make this about what's best for the kids? School board, I can't thank you enough for your many hours of service to our school district. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie.
And welcome to Brooke Running.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Awesome. So first of all, I am the K2 school counselor for those of you that don't know me. And if you have a K2 kiddo, please know that my live lessons in the afternoon when I get to see their cute little faces on my screen, that is my favorite part of the day. I miss your kids. Your kids are my kids. I love them. I care about them. They mean everything to me. To hear Ann McHugh talking about her 7-year-old, I know him. I love that kid. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to hear some of these stories. And I have 2 children of my own at home. I have a 1st grader and a 4th grader. And yeah, all 3 of us have shed tears, as has Mr. Running, but he might be crying for other reasons. I'm not really sure. Anyways, I want to say, as somebody who has been in the building every day, meeting those 20 hours that are required by the board, I see the hard work that our staff is doing every day, and they are giving their all. Last night, my son's 4th grade teacher sent an email at 6:30 on a Sunday night. I messaged her and said, stop working. These people love your children, and they are doing everything they can for your children and will continue to do so, whether it is the hybrid model or the virtual model. This is our passion. This is what we do. Please know our custodians are working so hard. I see them every day, cleaning, disinfecting, sanitizing. Our kitchen workers, Wednesday is now the best day in my house because we're getting some delicious meals and chocolate milk, and it is the greatest thing ever. I ask, and my request is that if we are voted to continue staying virtually, that this requirement of hours in the building is dissolved. It's hard. It's hard to make it happen, and we are capable of doing this job from home. We should be allowed that choice. We are professionals. We are meeting our job responsibilities, and it's not necessary to put that strain on people who can't make it happen. Those of us that want to get in that building, absolutely let us continue to do so, but it shouldn't be a requirement. My next, and this is more of an ask, I guess I don't know the answer to this, it's just an idea. If we are voted to do hybrid and do K2, I'm wondering if it's possible we use some of the other school buildings like the IC or the middle school or even the high school just to socially distance more. I don't know if that's a possibility or something that's been discussed, but I hope it's something we can look into as an option just to keep our numbers low. And again, if K2 is voted to go in hybrid, I would request that grades 3 through 12 staff do not have to do those required hours in their building. It honestly, I think it's hurting our morale to say that we have to somehow be held accountable in the building when they can do their job just fine from their home. Many are, they're doing it at 6:30 on a Sunday night from their house. Let's let them do that if that is what they choose and what is best for their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke.
Good evening to Sarah Wells.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
We sure can.
Okay. Hello. My name is Sarah Wells. My husband and I have 2 kids here in the Mount Horeb district, a 1st grader and a 4th grader. So back in the summer, we remained with an open mind about the virtual learning, and we're hoping that things would change. And I can't thank the people that we have that have helped supported our children thus far. My 1st grader has Mrs. Morrishard, and I could not thank her enough. My husband travels, so I am a single mom right now with 2 kids. And my 4th grader is working with Mrs. Byer, who is a fabulous teacher. But I will tell you that I am very worried about both of their mental health. We have little Vikings to think that have 3 days a week. My son wants to go more days, not because of the schooling, but because he gets to be with other kids. My husband and I are already forking out over $800 a month for daycare, to have one in daycare 3 days a week and the other one 2 days a week. We would not have to have this expense had the school decision went in an opposite direction. My son is overwhelmed. He is stressed. He has never had homework like before. Like I said, my husband travels. I work with UW Health. Healthcare does not shut down, as all of you know. There's demanding WebExes, meetings, and things that I need to attend all day long. And when they are here with me, they are constantly needing help, whether it is technology related, whether it's schoolwork related, whatever the case may be. I cannot be a student aid to my children. The district, the teachers have done a fabulous job with helping me and assisting me in whatever my kids may need. But Mount Horeb District, I'm asking you to step up for the help of parents and kids, because people are breaking down. It is very apparent to me that at soccer practices, baseball practices, extracurricular activities, that we have to have our kids in at this point to give them any social interaction. My daughter has been bored and has actually logged off of WebExes because she is bored, because she is not challenged. I stumbled upon this in the middle of a WebEx and asked her, and she flat out told me, I know what I'm doing. I'm bored, Mom. By Friday, they want no part of virtual learning at all. This is a struggle. My mom is a student aide in another district in Milton. They have K through 6 going every day of the week. When I check their numbers, their district is larger than us. I know Dane County is restricted, but we need to step forward and do what we can to get what we can do for these kids back in school. Because the virtual learning on all fronts is extremely difficult right now. And I want my children to love school. They both love school. My son loves it up until this year. Last week alone, he had 4 meltdowns crying on the phone. And I asked him, do you want to talk with somebody? I know you're overwhelmed. I know you're stressed about this. Because every day, it's a long list of me making a list of all the different things that need to be done. It is hard to expect 4th graders to be able to navigate on a day-to-day basis what their day needs to look like when they're by themselves at a computer. Normally, they would be finishing these things in the classroom. They can't be. And so now it is up to us as parents to be able to write down and navigate these lists, because the teachers can only do so much with where they're at. And I cannot thank them enough, because they have gone above and beyond. And I have asked my son if he has wanted to do a student check-in, and his exact words to me were, Mom, that's just one more virtual meeting. They don't want to do this anymore. They need to be back with their friends. And I'm sorry if I'm emotional, but this Mount Horeb district needs to step up and figure out these options so we don't lose our kids academically and mentally. And I think there is ways that Mount Horeb definitely, especially with 5 different buildings in our district, can make this work if we all work together as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Wells, never apologize for being emotional about the love you have for your kids. Thank you for your comments here tonight. A name that's familiar to many of us, Allison Gundrum. Hi, Allie, how are you?
Hi guys, can you hear me all right?
You sure can.
Alrighty, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Allison Gundrum. I'm a senior at the high school. And I actually wasn't planning on speaking tonight. But I think something that we need to remember right now, and something that I heard a couple of times, was in reference to the mission statement, right? Nurturing and educating and challenging our students. And I think one really important thing that we're forgetting in all of this is that it is the teachers who are nurturing and educating and challenging our students when they're not at home. And regardless of the decision that is made, whether it is the decision that most teachers at the ELC and PC indicated that they were in favor of or not, I am honestly troubled by the way that people are talking about teachers, either intentionally or unintentionally, and their role in this process. Flashback, pre-COVID, everything, the most impactful meeting I ever went to as a student on the board was in discussion of our staff. And if you break it down by statistics, our staff are more experienced coming in. They stay longer. We have excellent, excellent teachers. And any board members who were at that meeting at that time will remember the discussion that we had. It is because our teachers here feel valued. They feel like they are listened to. They feel like they are valued members of the community, and they're respected. They have a place here. And personally, as a student who's gone through elementary, middle, and high school here, I have felt that love from having those teachers in my life, and I have benefited from that experience. And so I just want to remind everyone tonight on the board, anyone who made comments, anyone who's just here to listen, that teachers are doing their best. That regardless of the decision that's made, I think teachers need flexibility, and I think we need to understand that they're people too. The last decision that the board made to mandate hours gave some teachers, I believe, less than 2 weeks notice, or right around 2 weeks notice, to get childcare for that first week that they were mandated to come in, when previously they did not understand that that was a requirement. It had not been communicated. And as Ms. Renning said earlier, that is not working for everybody. And so no matter whether the decision tonight is made that reflects the results of that survey or not, I know it's a complex decision and it can't come down to just one response. But I would ask from the board and the community that no matter what happens, we make a commitment to speaking to, listening to, and working with teachers as we develop this plan so that they are not left in the dark and they don't feel disrespected. Because I would hate to see the staff that we love so much, that we recognize are exemplary, feel alienated or leave their jobs because they are not able to work and feel respected under these conditions. So yeah, thank you teachers, thank you janitors, thank you lunch staff, thank you everybody who's making this work. And regardless of what the decision is tonight, I would hope that we all keep in mind that those are people and they're people that we love and respect. Thanks guys.
Thanks, Ellie. Good to see you.
Good evening to Al Emick. Mr. Emick?
Yes, thank you very much.
We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First, I just wanted to say, first, a big thanks to everyone involved here. Everyone from the teachers, cafeteria staff, everyone involved has been tremendous in trying to make everything that we've been trying to do here with everyone's kids work. And I think for the most part, my overall thoughts on this is that, each of us has a different situation with our jobs. I find myself and my wife to be incredibly fortunate that we are able to be as flexible as we can be with our jobs. And that allows us to be more successful with virtual learning than maybe others have the opportunity to. And I think the teachers are doing a tremendous job given the tools and resources that they have to work with. My overall thoughts on this is not to provide any sort of suggestive solution to whether or not there is a hybrid model or all virtual, but I would just caution that while there's a lot going on here between everyone's life situation and what teachers have to deal with, that we keep an eye on the data and that we keep in mind that for the most part, things are not in a good place for the data at this point, but that is something that should be minded with any decision being made. So at this point, I hope that that's just something that, is not lost sight of. And, looking at, I don't know if there's better sources for this sort of thing, but looking at cases in Dane County, looking at other cases around the state, things are quite elevated at the moment. And I think that's something to be wary of, as much as this is also a strain on everybody's life and a huge strain for the kids. At the same token, it's just something that I want to make sure we don't lose sight of. So I appreciate everyone's time. And again, a huge thanks to everyone involved. And I know how big a struggle this is. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Al.
And our last caller for now is Patty Wanta. Good evening, Ms. Wanta. Patty Wanta, please. Patty, W-A-N-T-A, are you on the call?
All right, going once, Patty. Going twice.
Well, she's indicating that she can't get through right now. She's having a difficult time.
Okay.
Would it be okay? I wonder if maybe if we asked her to come, if she'd be willing to come back onto the call when we do our end of the meeting.
Sure, yeah, I think that's right. Patty, we have citizen comments as item number 8, I think it is on this agenda. We'd be happy to hear from you then if you're having trouble now. Are there any other citizen comments? That number is 608-250-9166. Just send a text with your name. Going once. We have one more?
Yes, we have 2 more.
2 more.
I'm sorry, the individual didn't share their name, but they indicated that they got another comment. Last 4 digits of their telephone are 8529. 8529.
Yes, sir. Chad Casey again. I apologize. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, we sure can.
First off, again, wonderful comments. Everybody's in a different situation. No blueprint for how to do this. I just want to implore, the leaders on this call to realize we need more options. That's it. We just need some better options. I think there's ways to do it somewhat safe. And I'm asking leaders to really look at what can be influenced and how we can make school better for all kids through this pandemic. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. The next call we have is Tracy Lang. Good evening, Mrs. Lang. Can you hear us okay, Tracy Lang?
Yep, I was just unmuting my button. Thank you. For those that don't know me, so I'm Tracy Lang. I teach 2nd grade here at the Primary Center. I've been teaching in this district for 27 years, and I absolutely love Mount Horeb. I've taught some of the children of some of the people that have spoken here tonight, and one of the things that I've always been impressed with living and working in this community is just the amount of love and support that we have here. I've listened to all of the speakers. My heart just goes out to all of the parents and what you're dealing with. And we as teachers, we know that. I know that this is not easy. I am also a parent, although my son is older, he's in high school, so completely different situation. I can't even imagine what it is like for a lot of you parents dealing with daycare issues and having to work your jobs and figure out how you're going to assist and support your child in their learning. And I'm thanking you from the bottom of my heart. And this is not easy for any of us. It's not easy for parents. It's not easy for teachers. It's not easy for these school board members, administrators. Man, COVID is terrible. Yuck. I hate it. And we all wish that it was just back to normal, and it's not. So the question is, what do we do? And I applaud this board for what they did in the summer. Not an easy decision. We didn't know what was going to happen. We knew we were going to try our best to improve virtual learning. And I think we have. I mean, I think all parents would agree it's much better than it was in the spring. And I feel like for myself, I feel like I've really connected well with my class. And for the teachers, and again, I'm not speaking for all of our teachers, of course we're worried about our health. Of course we're worried. Some of us have health issues ourselves. Some people have loved ones that they are petrified of bringing this home to them, as are anybody out in the workforce. All of you who are working your jobs feeling the same way. Some of the issues that the teachers are worried about are also outside of the realm of even the health issues. One of the questions that many of us have is, if we go back hybrid, and you have to understand, we want to be back with our kids. When I'm teaching in my classroom each day, looking at my computer, and I turn around and look at all the empty desks behind me, it makes me sad. I want those kids there. But one of the questions that comes up is, if we go back hybrid, and we have, some students are going to choose all virtual because they absolutely have that right. How will it work? And maybe this board can address that. But how will it work if we have so many students that want virtual and so many students that want hybrid? Are we switching kids around to different classes then? Are we going to have a couple of virtual teachers? So kids will be moved out of certain teachers' classrooms to go to a virtual teacher's classroom, and vice versa. I've bonded with my students. And I know it sounds funny to say I bonded with them through a computer screen, but I have. And they've bonded with each other. So I think that's a big question that needs to be answered by this board and administration is, how is that going to look? How is that going to work? Are we completely going to redo class lists if we go back hybrid? That's a huge, huge question. I cannot, as a teacher, teach hybrid and virtual at the same time. It's not doable. I can do hybrid, I can do virtual, but it would be a complete disservice to my students to do both at the same time. It just, that doesn't work. So that has to be figured out. The second point I want to make is we have yet, and this is another reason why the teachers are a little fearful, because we don't know the plan as to what would happen if we had a positive case. Now, we've had a positive case at the IC. We've had a positive case at the ELC. What is the plan? I mean, I want to know, A, this is going to happen, and then B, and then C. What is the plan if we have positive cases? That's happening to so many schools right now, is that they're in person and they're virtual for 2 weeks and they're back in person. What's the plan? If teachers know what that plan is, that may alleviate some of our fears too. But right now we don't know. We don't know what the plan is if we have positive cases from staff or from students. So that's the second thing that needs to be addressed. And I thought, Cassie McMillan, you brought up a great point too, that there are districts that do have K2. And by the way, I taught Anna, and oh, I can't believe she's a senior, Cassie. Wow. But a lot of those districts, their K2 kids are going half days. So they're going either mornings or they're going afternoons, which alleviates the need for the lunchroom and that type of thing, because that's a whole other issue, is how are you going to conduct lunches? So I think that's if this board does decide to go hybrid, we need to look at what the other districts are doing to be successful. I know we own our own bus department, so there is that busing issue, but we can, maybe we can think outside the box with some way with busing, or if parents are willing to drop off. I agree with a lot of the speakers that we do need to think about how we are going to do this. So that's another point. I also, one of the things too is that we had talked about the numbers. That is Wisconsin is a hot spot right now. I mean, we're not doing well. So looking at what the metrics are, originally the board said we would look at the metrics. Well, let's look at the metrics. What do the metrics say? Is it right for us to go back? I know I talked a long time. Thank you so much. Just lots of questions that need to be answered. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Mrs. Lang. We appreciate your insights. And Ms. Wanta is back on the call. Ms. Wanta? Patty Wanta, I got your text saying that you're back on the call. Are you able to join us right now? Okay, how about Colin Steck? Good evening, Mr. Steck.
Good evening, Dr. Salerno and the board. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate your time. I know that there's obviously been a lot of people that have talked so far this evening, and I'm sure there'll be many more after we see a presentation as we go through the evening as well. And I just want to bring up, Tracy brought up some great points. As teachers, and Ms. Running talked about this as well, we really do love your kids, and we love seeing your kids. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm the first and second grade Phy Ed teacher, and this year so far I'm also half the kindergarten Phy Ed teacher as well. So I see every single kid that comes through this district. And what Tracy brought up about unanswered questions is really where a lot of us are hung up. And I don't think that is just teachers. I think that that's parents as well. And what we have not seen yet is what that plan is. And I think what parents need to understand, and what so far we understand as teachers based on what we have seen that has been presented, that I assume is going to be shown tonight, is in-person school, whether it's hybrid or back, whatever you want to call it, back in the building, is not going to be what your kid expects. It is not going to be what you as a parent expects it to be. Your child sitting apart, spaced from somebody else, or being in a gym or outside when it is very cold weather trying to do physical education, is not what your child expects when they're going to be in the building. And it's hard for us as teachers, and it's going to be hard for you as parents to hear from your kids, and it's going to be hard from a community perspective to try and redo an entire thought as to what a school day will look like. And I know that it's a tough task, and Dr. Salerno, you and I had a great conversation a couple weeks ago about how I don't envy anybody trying to make this decision. I really do not. I know that it is a long, thoughtful process that is going to affect many people. And when we're talking about trying to do what's best for the greater good, if you will, of our community, I don't envy what is going to try to happen this evening. The only thing that I would not feel comfortable if I didn't bring up those points, that it's going to be not what is expected, and it's hard for us as a staff to kind of understand when we don't have a plan that has been put in front of us to feel comfortable when we get those calls and those text messages and those seesaw messages from our students and parents asking so many questions about what could be happening. Thanks for your time this evening. I really appreciate it. And good luck with your decision.
Thank you, Colin, for your thoughtfulness. Mrs. Dreesen, Kristen Dreesen, are you on the call this evening?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can.
All right. Thank you for letting me speak. I have 3 daughters in the district. One's in 4th, 2nd, and one in 4K. My husband and I both work outside the home every day. I know this is a difficult decision and you have a tremendous responsibility on your hands. And I know it is your responsibility to vote on what is best for our children. They're why you exist as a district and a board. We desperately need our children back in school, in the classroom. We have amazing talent in the educators of this district. I hope it's very clear. It is very clear to us as parents and in the community that our teachers love our children. And if anyone can do this, it is this district and these teachers. And again, why we need you so desperately to step up and lead. As a board and administration, you need to lead the way and make this happen. Virtual learning does not work for my children. And I've heard the same reports from every other parent I've talked with. Many of them are afraid to speak up in this forum. So I think it's important to represent many of them. We've tried and tried with virtual learning. We've put on our bravest faces for our kids. Our children continue to show their resilience, but the number of issues, this just cannot be sustained. The technology issues are constant and frustrating. I want to make sure that's very clear. We have tried to mitigate nearly every one of them multiple times. The tears are a regular occurrence. Our kids aren't learning as they would in the classroom. It's not for the fault of the teachers, it's this environment of learning. My kids are falling behind quickly with virtual learning. It's a notable difference. I'm really worried about their future struggles in school as a result. Kids also need social interaction, which you've heard from others tonight. My girls used to love school. They got home from school and quickly started playing school. Sorry.
Kristen, take your time.
Okay, I can do this. They are still grieving the loss of school. And sadly, they don't have that excitement. In fact, I'm seeing them be quite negative towards school. Something I'd never thought I'd see in my little girls. As I said before, my daughters have and continue to be blessed with amazing teachers. We love our teachers. This is not a critique of them. And for that reason, they want to be in the classroom with them, learning from them, and it's essential for their long-term growth and development. This virus is going nowhere, and we just can't leave our kids behind. There will always be cases, and many school districts have proven this can be done. And I know that we absolutely can do this. Our kids can't speak up for themselves. So I feel like I have to, and I'll continue to speak up for my kids. Private schools are figuring this out. Other schools are figuring this out. Our amazing daycares have been doing it this entire time and keeping staff safe with fewer resources and way less infrastructure than our school has. Our youngest goes to Hearts and Hands and has gone to Hearts and Hands full-time throughout the pandemic. She's so fortunate to have amazing Amanda Rockow and our amazing 4K program in person. She's even proud of her awards she's already won for wearing her mask all day, and she's 4. If 4-year-olds can do it, we can absolutely do this. As a parent and a community member, I know that our teachers love our children, as I've said before. I've often told others that I feel like my daughter's teachers are an extension of our family. And for that reason, we absolutely need to get back in the classroom with them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think all of us have been at the point where you are tonight. The vulnerability we greatly appreciate and can understand where you're coming from. Thank you to Jessica Schwer, who's been waiting patiently. Good evening, Ms. Schwer.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me all right.
First of all, I do want to ask the board to carefully consider the status of the disease in our area before approving any return to in-person instruction. If and when the time is right to transition to hybrid instruction, I wanted to share a thought regarding the specifics of what that might look like. The plan that is included in today's agenda, although I understand is just a proposal, an idea, and that many of the details do need to be worked out. But it includes a schedule that shows students live streaming into their classroom for portions of their at-home days. And I just wanted to share a thought about that. As both a parent and a professional with more than 20 years of experience in the field of early elementary instruction, I don't believe that any live streaming into the classroom is developmentally appropriate for children at the K-2 level. At this age, children need their teachers' full attention to remain engaged in virtual instruction. I have witnessed it the last 24 days of this school year and in the spring when I worked with my students online then. How is one teacher supposed to meet the needs of in-person students while at the same time managing to keep virtual students engaged in their instruction? The students in front of us in person can't go anywhere, but we have no way of ensuring children who are live streaming in from home will remain at their computer and patiently wait while we tend to the in-person students. They're 5. Waiting is hard when you're 5. Managing the technology that would be required to ensure that all students could see and hear their teacher during live streaming instruction would be challenging as well. A model that requires a single teacher to manage both virtual students and in-person students at the same time will not be engaging or effective for either group of students. Again, I know these plans are in their infancy, and based, of course, on the decision tonight, there will be many more details coming, but I just wanted to share my professional opinion on that particular item. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Waiting at age 5 is very difficult, and so is waiting at age 50. You're right. Thank you. Ambrielle Chamberlain, how are you tonight? Are you on the call?
Good. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Good to see you and good to hear from you.
Hi. Good to see you too. First of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here and for all the parents who are speaking out. And I know it's hard to share those opinions, and we all hear you, and that has to be extremely hard. Cullen Steck kind of touched on what I was going to bring up. For those who don't know me, I'm a kindergarten teacher in Mount Horeb, and I hear so many parents talking about wanting that socialization piece back for their kiddos. And when I hear that, that's something that's hard for me, teaching the littlest ones. When I'm at school every day, I see my tables spaced out, like 8 tables in my room, and that's where they're going to sit and do their work. I won't be able to hug them. They won't really be able to play and interact with their peers. And that's also something I feel like we haven't really seen much of a plan in place of what that's actually going to look like when they're in the building. You know, when is lunchtime going to look like? What is playtime going to look like? But that's something that I wanted to share out that, yeah, like I said, Cullen Steck already kind of touched on that of what that plan is actually going to look like when kids are in the school. But that I feel like we maybe haven't touched on very much, that parents don't know what it's going to look like and the kids don't know what it's going to actually be like, what kind of protective barriers are going to be set up for them that we'll be working around and working with. But for those little ones, spending most of their day sitting at one table all alone by themselves, I worry about their mental health. So it's just something I wanted to share out from a little one's perspective. And there's nothing more than I want than for them to be in the classroom with me, as much as I know many of you want them back in the classroom too. But I worry about what that's actually going to be like for them, and if that truly is what's best for them at this moment. Thank you for your time.
And thank you, Ambrielle. It's nice to hear from you. We're also grateful to have on the call tonight Kristen Oyens.
Sorry, I'll keep this brief. I wasn't planning to talk tonight. Can you hear me okay?
We sure
Okay.
can. Go ahead.
I just wanted to share because I heard so many people who are struggling, and my heart goes out to you. But I feel like I wanted to represent the group of people that are actually doing really well at virtual, and that we're finding that it works really well for us. And I know some people have said like everyone they talk to, virtual isn't working, and it's the total opposite for us. Everyone I talk to has been having a great time of it. Obviously, there are challenges with it, and things don't go perfectly every day, but that was true of regular school too, to be honest. So I think I just wanted to represent that, and I also am concerned that if we go back to hybrid, the idea of having to switch teachers and stuff, both my kids have really made strong connections to their teachers, and they really like the routine that they're in, and they are in a groove, and it's going really well. And so I'm concerned that if we switch everything up with hybrid, we'll still get to pick virtual, but will they have a new teacher? Will they have to live stream into a class? I worry about that. I think that's something that we need to be really, really careful with, I hope. And I just also wanted to point out the idea that hybrid doesn't seem to solve a lot of the problems that parents are having. If technology isn't working, you still have to have it 3 days a week, and maybe your kids are going to be doing independent work on those days, right? That was one proposal once where maybe they weren't even meeting with the teacher on the 3 days that they are off. So you'll still need daycare. And it seems like, I don't know, there might be just as many problems with the new model that there are with virtual. Just a thought. So I hope you keep the people in mind that virtual is working really well for, and that we can continue to kind of keep those things in place for them. Thanks.
Thanks, Kristen. We've got two more. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to listen to additional comments at the tail end in citizen comments, but the last two, Patty Wanta, are you on the call now? Patty? Patty said in a couple of texts to me, she's just been having a hard time trying to get access to muting and unmuting. Maybe we can figure that out offline so we can hear your thoughtful comments at the tail end of the meeting. And then the last comment for now, welcome to Darcy Evans. Good evening, Darcy.
Hey, hang on, let me.
We can hear you.
Are you able to hear me?
You bet.
Okay. I actually hadn't planned on speaking at the meeting, and my heart's pounding a little bit, gonna be honest. I'm going to completely be transparent and honest. I am one of the families from Mount Horeb that pulled their kid and put them into private school at St. Joe's in Dodgeville. It was an incredibly hard decision. I love Mount Horeb. I love all the teachers, the staff. I think they are truly, I mean, I could go on and on. I think the debate is not how wonderful the staff and the teachers are. We're all on the same page for that. For my family, I'm going to be, once again, transparent, and I just kind of got to get rid of what people think of me here. But what I'm going to say is, virtual in the spring, and it is no fault of anybody for how hard that was thrown at people and what a great job people did pivoting. But between virtual and social distancing and all the things that have kind of happened, it took a huge toll on my family, my marriage. We're business owners. My husband's trying to run a business from home. I've never felt like a worse parent, telling my kids literally, leave me alone. I need you to leave me alone. Sit down, I can't help you right now. And how many times I kept saying, I can't. So for my family, when there was a different option, we looked at it, I thought hard, and based off of my personal experience, and I know I've talked before, from my background as a nurse, I was comfortable, we've sent our kids. What I can say is, for my girls, I made the right decision. My girls have acclimated really well. It's awesome to hear them talking about meeting new friends. And they're like, yeah, I got to wear my mask, and, don't forget my water bottle because there is no water fountain, Mom. Like, you know, my Grace, she's my micromanager, and make sure that all of us have our masks and our water bottles and everything all lined up. But my children have adapted. I've not heard one complaint. I've seen the school, they're spaced, and it is because there's a small amount and they had a plan. The desks are 6 feet apart. My kids are in a mask. There are plastic barriers wrapped around their desks, and no, this is not normal. And no, this is not anything like what I envisioned for them. But, you know, praise God that for at least a month they had this, and not to say that they won't end up turning and pivoting and having to do virtual also, but I had to try something. I think for my 7th grader, I think it was not nearly as easy or good. And I struggle with that because by pulling him, I put him into a classroom of 14-year-olds or 14 kids that had been together since kindergarten. And obviously with all of the emotional and developmental things that our kids are going through when they're 12, going to be 13, and kind of the history of some of the stuff of that class, and what I'm seeing in the emergency department with kids that have been successful in their attempts at that age and younger, and the increase in that. You know, I just took some time and really kind of supported him, and he's come around. But my preference would have been to keep my kids, you know, with some form of in-person in Mount Horeb. I guess I struggled because we're all like, I think we all as a community and as a school, like we want the same thing. We want the kids back in school. And I feel like we spend so much energy trying to like plead our cases for what's right or what's wrong for our opinions and our experiences, that I feel like we lose some of the momentum that we would have if we came together and actually work towards getting people back in school. But what that means, where the supports and the plans are in place for the teachers, for the students, so that those who really want virtual have an option of virtual, that you know, in-person doesn't fit with them, but kind of opening up and looking at what more options are, and knowing that we're never going back to normal. Whether you're a teacher, a nurse, a business owner, like it was the hardest thing for me to wrap my mind around these next couple weeks. No matter what happens, normal is never coming back. You're never going to shove a ton of people comfortably into small spaces again without any hesitation, without masks and all those things. So I know I'm kind of rambling, but I mean, I do want to say that, you know, for us, Mount Horeb would always be our first choice. And I know other schools have made the movement, and I would just like to see all of us kind of get out of our lanes of, you know, like just working together, because at the end of the day, eventually everybody needs to go back, and the more time and effort and momentum that we put into planning and evaluating and looking at what other people are doing and reevaluating, like that's how we're going to get there, instead of fighting each other and arguing and trying to, like, you know, all of these emotions, we need to respond and not react. We're very reactionary sometimes. And so our response needs to be thought out, careful, planned, giving everybody the tools they need. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Darcy. This concludes citizen comments. We'll move on to item 4A, personnel transactions.
Board members, just to note that there is an addendum this evening.
Motion to approve, Kimberly.
This is Leah, second.
Kimberly has moved and Leah has seconded a motion to approve the personnel transactions for this meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and personnel transactions are approved. Item 5A, B, C, and D and E, consent agenda. Is there anything?
Motion to approve the consent agenda, Kimberly.
This is Jessica, I second.
So Kimberly moved and Jessica seconded a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and the consent agenda is approved. Item 6B, committee member reports, Building, Grounds, and Transportation Committee. Jeff.
All right, meeting was on September 28th. Can you unmute yourself, please? Unmute yourself, please.
Move to finance. Diana, please.
Okay, hello. So Finance Committee met on September 14th. We had 2 donations that were accepted during the meeting. We also spent a considerable amount of time discussing the new DPI school level finance reporting that is now required, breakdown costs by the building level. We'll be seeing this at the board table in the near future. We spent time discussing the budget and the calendar. Just to note that the October finance meeting has been moved to the 3rd Monday in October because of the budgeting at the state level. We discussed our current enrollment numbers, the information that we had at that time because it was just prior to the 3rd Friday count being finalized. And we also discussed the food service budget and the state of that. That is my finance update. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. We'll go back to Jeff, Buildings and Grounds.
Okay, we met on the 28th of September. The new buses came in on the 18th. The bus drivers are getting a few more bus drivers. There is a bus that we are trying to sell, and if we do so, the dollars will be returned to the Special Needs Fund. The building, the grounds, I can't think of his name, Dave Reed. Reported about $240,000 of extra dollars left of their referenda. And there's a list of some of the stuff that they want to use that money up on coming up later on in the budget, the agenda tonight. And I had a talk with Steve a little earlier about some of the concrete work that still needs to be done. And I think it will work its way out. The work for all the buildings got done on time. There's a few trees to be cut down yet that are sickly or totally dead. And they might get to it sometime. I don't know what he said. I kind of had a migraine that night and missed the meeting, but I'm winging it here. Maybe you got anything to add to that?
No, that was really good. Yeah, we appreciate that.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Moving on to safety and wellness, Leah.
All right, so we had a very hefty agenda. We met with Mary from Oregon Mental Health, and we discussed how it went after the shutdown in March versus how it's going today. We had 36 students participate in services from Oregon Mental Health last year. After the shutdown, we had 3 that continued, and this year we have 11. We talked a lot about mental health and mental health screeners that we're talking about putting into place to help us identify kids that might need services or extra touch points. Sarah Eartham also attended and shared the results from the staff wellness survey. We had to table a lot of items because our focus was mainly on mental health topics. That's my report.
All right, thanks a lot, Leah. Are there any other committee member reports tonight? Thanks very much. Moving on to item 6C, the building bridges update. Brian Johnson.
Yeah, welcome. Emily Magano. She has been part of our building bridges team for the past 4 years since we've started within the Mount Horeb School District. We've been really lucky to have both Emily and Ashley part of our team. They've been with us since the beginning and are still with us today. And so they've been providing a lot of great services to the students and to the families and to our school district throughout the last few years. And so I'm going to turn it over to Emily to give that update. So thanks, Emily.
Thank you, and thanks for having me tonight. So my name is Emily McGonigal. I am the clinical coordinator for the Building Bridges program here in Mount Horeb, and I work on a team of 2 with my partner Ashley Carlson, and we just specifically cover Mount Horeb School District. So the program is in almost all districts in Dane County, but we are just for the Mount Horeb School District. And the goal of the Building Bridges program is to address mental and behavioral health concerns. We want to improve behaviors in the classroom, whether that's a physical or a virtual classroom, improve attendance and academic performance, and address home or community issues that might be happening. So we provide 90 days of intensive wraparound support to students in 4K through 8th grade. So unfortunately, we are not at the high school level. And we really strive to focus on the immediate mental and behavioral health needs of students and their families. So we also provide support to families who might be experiencing homelessness, grief and loss, poverty, or various types of traumas. Our primary goal is to decrease crisis events of students in the school setting and to provide family supports to ensure readiness for learning. So we work really closely with school staff to improve capacity to respond to mental and behavioral health issues in the school setting. And we also want to increase student success by providing proactive responses to stressors, connecting schools, families, and students with needed resources, and improve school staff's understanding of mental health issues that impact students and families. So in the 90 days when we're working with a student and their family and their school team, we create what we call our service plan, which is a list of 2 to 3 goals that we collaborate on to come up with together as a team. And some of those goals might include things like modifying or helping to create behavior support plans, connecting families to mental health services or other needed resources. Other resources might include like housing, utility support, extracurricular activities, tutoring or mentorship opportunities. We also create crisis plans to use both at home and at school. We provide support to students who have experienced or are experiencing traumas. We try to provide trauma-informed interventions and strategies to school teams. We provide case management services to families, and we have the option to meet with students one-on-one at school for skill building. So we are not therapy in schools, but when we do meet with students one-on-one, we're working on things like social skills, coping skills, emotional regulation, both virtually or physically in the classroom. We can also provide classroom observations so that we're kind of a fresh set of eyes in the classroom. And ultimately, we're called Building Bridges because we want to build the communication and build the bridge between home, school, and any community providers. So if a student or child has an outside therapist or psychiatrist or psychologist, we like to try to collaborate with that person too to see if there's something happening in that setting that's positive or helpful, how can we translate that back to the school setting or the home setting. So since COVID in the spring, we continued to work with all of our students and families virtually. So even though school went virtual, we were still there to provide that service, and that's how we've started this year also. So although the program is a 90-day short-term intervention program, We're not just done at that 90 days. We always provide a 1-month follow-up and a 6-month follow-up to ensure that students are getting the support that they need both at school and at home. And that's what we've been doing at the beginning of the school year, and the beginning of September was really providing that follow-up support, making sure that students feel connected to their teachers and other school staff virtually, and making sure families are set up with the things that they need. So Building Bridges has been able to help get things like desks set up and to help parents create spaces in their home that's set aside for their child to learn. And we do that regardless of COVID or not. We always do that 1- and 6-month follow-up. So right now, our current referral period is open. So in years past, we've typically worked with 12 students per semester. And this year, we actually increased that caseload to 15. So we're now taking 15 students. And instead of having 2 separate referral periods, we're doing a rolling referral period. So when we've provided service to one student and we've met the goals that we all agreed upon, then we have space to have another student participate in the program. So typically the child's school team would refer them if they've noticed some behaviors or some mental health concerns in the classroom. Parents can also self-refer. So if this sounds like something that might be a good fit for you or your family, you can certainly get in touch with me directly. Typically, it's best if you get in touch with your child's school team first. So the principal, the school psychologist, social worker, counselor, and they will get you connected to me as well. A couple of data points to provide is our contact hours. So in the spring semester, most of our contact was with parents and guardians. So we had 43% of our contact was with parents and guardians, and 39% was with school staff, which is pretty typical. I met with students one-on-one 10% of the time. I would say usually that number is a little bit higher, but because of COVID and working out technology kinks, as you all know, was difficult. And then the remainder of those percentages are spent between classroom observations or talking to community providers or community outreach. The last piece about our program that I wanted to make sure to bring up tonight is we provide professional development to the school teams and to the community. So in the past, we've done professional development presentations to the district on trauma and trauma-informed classrooms, as well as self-care. So because we're not in person right now, the Building Bridges program as a whole, collectively, all of the Building Bridges teams in the school districts in Dane County has put together a list of pre-recorded professional development that is going to be shared out this week and next week with district administrators. And so some of those PDs include topics on mental health, on self-care, on COVID resources, on managing behaviors in the home. So some of our presentations are geared towards school staff and some are going to be geared towards parents. So as soon as we have that link, I'll make sure to pass that along to Brian. And that is my Building Bridges update. Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to leave my contact info in the chat, but I know that can't be seen by everybody. So feel free to put it in the board summary or however you think it would be best given.
I'd be happy to put it in a board recap, and I think it goes without saying how much we appreciate you and your colleagues' efforts to help us. Building Bridges is now in its 4th year with us as a district, and that coupled with the good work of Oregon Mental Health means that we have a lot of resources for our families, and you make us better. Thank you, Emily.
Great, thanks, Emily. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6D, the teacher leadership presentation regarding COVID-19. Thanks for being here tonight, Mr. Jansen, and we'll get the slides set up.
All right, thank you very much. And as Dr. Salerno pulls those up, I'll just introduce myself by saying I'm Will Jansen. I'm a member of the district's Teacher Leadership Committee and a member of the Executive Committee for the Mount Horeb Education Association. And I'd like to present some data gathered from our K-2 faculty. Before I do that, I would like to sincerely thank the board and Dr. Salerno for being willing to provide this space for us to share that and for your patience as you deal with what's clearly a very challenging issue. As conversations began moving forward recently about a potential plan to bring our K-2 students back on campus, MHEA served those faculty about the concept of having children return. Our results didn't address plan specifics as we did not have access to the level of detail that you now have in your action item 7A. So we're a little more broad in our concepts. Instead, faculty have been shown some broad outlines of several options through a slideshow from their administrator during a virtual staff meeting. Our survey was taken following that meeting after some staff expressed concerns about the manner in which in-person instruction might proceed. So getting into the slideshow, the survey was sent to 47 staff members. We asked staff members to complete the survey if they did not have administrative input on the plan to reopen. And 40 out of 47 staff members took the survey, and you can see the results before you in terms of who participated and how many from each of the buildings. If you would please go to the next slide. The gradual reopening plan the board adopted earlier this year states that we will use the metrics put out by Public Health Madison-Dane County, something you've heard about frequently tonight from various speakers. The document that organization uses has a page called Reopening Guidelines for Dane County Public Schools. On page 1, it states specifically, regarding K-2 instruction, once the target is met and sustained for 4 consecutive weeks, and additional considerations are assessed, schools may want to consider reopening. The target being referenced in that sentence is a 14-day average of 54 cases or less in Dane County. The number listed for Dane County on September 30th was 130, clearly above 54. We are not meeting the target. The district's plan calls for the community spread level to be at yellow. It is currently red. The district's plan calls for lab reporting and contact tracing to be at yellow. It is currently red. The survey question that you see right now was asking staff if they think the district should follow those metrics. And you can see the response from our staff. Next slide, please. The next question asked if staff felt safe if our district followed the guidelines. And you can see that our staff is incredibly evenly split if the metrics are followed. One thing I would draw from that is that if you decide to move forward with bringing students on campus, we'll have an issue that we just need to plan for in how we will make our staff feel safe. Staff who don't feel safe will feel anxious, and their effectiveness will be significantly diminished. So we'll have to do whatever we possibly can to help staff feel safe so they can pass that along to their students, who, of course, they will want to feel safe. Next slide, please. This slide shows that if we decided to not follow the metrics, how would staff feel about returning? And you can see that the great majority of staff would be very concerned if we chose to ignore the metrics as indicated and did so to return to school. As educators, we have heard often from people in other employment situations that they have needed to return to work, and so should we. And we understand that concern. But what we do is not like being a nurse with one patient in an examining room who had to have their temperature checked and answer a series of questions before being admitted, or being in a store where you might be able to spread out, or being in an office where you sit in a cubicle for a day. Our members will need to spend numerous hours per day with a group of children in a room, who will then go home to interact with a whole set of other people in their lives, and then come back and interact with us again the next day. This slide shows you the deep concern our staff have about that situation if we choose not to follow the metrics. Next slide, please. In the brief meeting at the ELC-PC staff members with their administrators, several plans were proposed, but specifics weren't shown. And as you look at these results, it looks a bit mixed. And I think it's fair to say that without knowing the exact plan, it's reasonable to expect that the results would be mixed. But I would ask you to take from that if you add together the yellow and the red, there's a lot of concern. And so as you've heard from some of our elementary educators tonight, it will be highly important that they're part of the planning so that they can feel comfortable that they're ready to help children succeed to the greatest extent possible as we move forward. The next slide, please. The next question asks how many of our staff at the K-2 level might take advantage of the CARES Act, and realize this is a response rate. So you have 40 respondents, so about 12% figure they might do that, or figure they probably will. 45% said they might, and 42% said they would not. So depending on the plan and what comes out of it, we may have to deal with some significant substitute issues as people take advantage of the Federal CARES Act between now and the end of this calendar year, and knowing that there's some uncertainty as to whether or not that will be extended. Next slide, please. The last slide is simply asking staff if they would feel comfortable talking tonight to you here instead of me. And you can see the 10% said yes, and a group said maybe, and a large group said no. And we discussed this as a leadership group, and many of our elementary members were worried that if they made comments tonight, that parents who have children that are taught by those teachers might feel concerned that those teachers expressed opinions. And that might damage the relationship between the child and the student and the parent. And so we felt it'd be better to have somebody who's a little removed, still knows the situation, but not directly. And that's why I'm speaking to you tonight, to recognize that they want to keep that relationship as positive and beautiful as they can. And I would just say that all of our teachers want to be back in the classroom, including those who work with our youngest students. Those of us who have children want our children back in school. The numbers in our state, however, are not comforting when we try to embrace the thought of return to face-to-face instruction. We hope as the district moves forward, there's some other things you'll consider that are not part of our survey. For instance, the provision of adequate personal protective gear for all staff interacting with students on an in-person basis. The provision of accommodations for staff who have family members with significant healthcare issues, who cannot risk interacting with students all day and then potentially bringing that virus home. The provision of adequate air exchange in every room for which students will be present, and adequate staffing to help monitor those students who are present in a classroom virtually, as you heard earlier, while the lead educator is working with those students who are physically present. As faculty, we remain grateful for the collaborative work we've been able to do with this district through the board members and the administrative team through many years and many challenges. We also appreciate the opportunity again to speak tonight and that you would give us consideration prior to your decision. I close with a comment from one of our elementary educators. It is our sincere hope that our community views the points we brought up tonight for what they are. Our staff wants to be part of planning for a safe, well-planned return to school. Virtual teaching is not our choice. We want to be back in the classroom, but we know that wants do not and should not outweigh needs. In this case, our needs are to keep ourselves, our families, our community, including the kids we have grown to love, safe. More than anything else, safe. This is a global pandemic that we did not create, yet it appears that society looks to us to deal with it. Please know that we are doing the very best that we possibly can. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Jansen. Does anyone have a question or comment for Will? All right, well, Mr. Jansen, we appreciate your time. We appreciate the time that you and the group took to put together the survey, and we appreciate knowing the results tonight. Thank you very, very much, Will. Great, moving on. Item 6E, COVID-19 update. Dr. Salerno.
Good evening again, board members. Thank you to our teachers and staff members that are on the call tonight. I appreciate their thoughtful insights and perspectives. I'm heartened by the fact that one of the things that we're hearing theme-wise is how much people care about our staff. That's come through loud and clear, and that means a great deal to all of us. They are deserving of their hard and noble work. You know, continuing along the theme of staff feedback, I've invited my friend and colleague Sarah Eartham, Coordinator of Human Resources, to join the call tonight to present the updates to our recent staff survey that went out this past mid-September. Sarah, are you on the call?
I am. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. All right. So, as Steve's bringing up, Dr. Salerno's bringing up the results from our survey, we sent out the survey to staff on the 16th and received the final results on the 23rd. And so, as just want to kind of highlight some of the information from there. We had a really great response rate and had a total of 243 staff respond to the survey, which is a really outstanding percentage. You can see here the makeup of the staff. We had asked that question, are you a staff that has children in the district or a parent or guardian of children in the district or not? And so you can see the breakout there. Moving on, you can see where they identify, and we're looking at the tables. It's just a little bit easier to read here, but you can see the breakout here. We had almost 70% of teaching staff. We had a great breakout from other staff, paraprofessionals, and others throughout the entire district responding to the survey as well. And you know, one of the things that was brought up by Mr. Jansen are, you know, what are things that are going to help staff feel comfortable and reduce that anxiety when they are in the building if we choose to bring kids back, and what is going to help them feel comfortable within the environment here. So you can kind of see, I believe that these results are fairly similar to our previous survey that we did back in June. One thing that you'll notice is that for personal protective equipment. So we've been working with our nurses on that. We've created some guidelines for individuals and we have masks available and other equipment depending on individual roles and accommodations and needs that people might have, that we've been working with staff to make sure that we're getting them that information or getting them that equipment that they might need. As part of this survey that you'll see a little bit later, we have a survey that we had shared with staff around wellness that our group put together. So you'll see some information from that as well. The hygiene and health and the cleaning, and those are all things and protocols that we have put in place and are working through, and continue to work with our staff as we hear different concerns as well. Then moving on to at the moment of the survey. So as individuals were completing the survey, we asked if schools continue to be allowed to reopen in person, indicate to the extent which you would support the different options. So you can see here where we've got the full-time return, you know, every single day, everybody's back in. As you can imagine, there were several people strongly opposing that. Moving down to the blended learning, looking at that statistic there, kind of similar to some statistics we saw a little bit earlier. It really is almost an even split there, about half and half, feeling that at the moment of filling out this survey, they could support having that blended learning for our students. And then maintaining a full-time distance education. There were several individuals, I apologize, I can't quite see the screen there. I'm getting old and I need my glasses. But you could tell that there were definitely some people, as we have heard, that people are, there are some people really enjoying that virtual learning and that they would support remaining in that full distance education as well. Okay. And then moving on here to, how did people feel that virtual education is going? You can see that and how prepared people felt. I know that there were a lot of teachers and Mrs. Straka that had put together really great training for our staff. And as you can see here, that really paid off, that people were feeling really prepared, moderately prepared. And of course, still some that maybe aren't quite feeling like they have everything they need. And, we're continuing to work with those individuals as well. Going on down to question 8 here. Considering virtual learning that's happened and been implemented this fall, what are staff feeling, how well that's going? And as you can see here in the table, individuals are feeling like, for the most part, it's going pretty well. Some people said it's excellent. We do have fewer numbers in that poor category and some that are still a little unsure. But when looking at that, I feel pretty good about the overall virtual, how that's going. And then moving on, we've got individuals that as we heard today, people are completing the work and they're getting things done. Individuals are really being able to make some great contacts with our students, which is extremely important in building those connections, especially in that virtual world. And people are feeling pretty confident in mostly being able to navigate the virtual world. Moving on down to please rate your confidence in the ability of the professional learning community to collaborate. Again, seeing some really positive results there, with staff being feeling that is important and that that's going well as well. So moving on down now into the wellness survey. So this is, as I mentioned, a survey that was drafted by the committee that met this summer, and we wanted to put out to our staff to get their feedback on what might be helpful for them in their wellness this school year. Really felt positive about this, that people feel like they have a good knowledge of what are some current practices of that whole wellness wheel. So not just physical, not just nutrition, but what is it, how knowledgeable do you feel about wellness as a whole? So moving on from there, people are aware of the mental health and well-being resources. For the most part, they know that they know how to access them, where to find them, and that they're there. So that's really great news, that they know where to go. Also that they are aware we have shared information with them. Always good to see that as well. And again, knowing where to find it is so important. And then, as you can see here, and I think as we've heard over many different discussions, people are looking to have that information for the majority of the time more on a monthly basis. We know where people are getting a lot of information. They're spending a lot of time taking care of your kids and preparing for the lessons. And so really looking at something that maybe is a little bit more monthly. Some individuals looking for weekly, really looking a lot for that information to be email was the most popular method. But also we have a wellness shared Google Drive, and that might be a place where people can go and look through information to find what they need. Looking for other ways, maybe in person or other ways that they can get that information as well. But email seems to be the biggest driver there. This one slide, question 20, I felt very, very good about too, because I know one of the concerns that we've heard is, do people have someone that they feel comfortable talking with? We've talked about a lot about isolation in that group, and individuals just going through a lot right now. And this is a really positive slide to see that so many people feel that they have someone in the district that they can go to if there's something that's bothering them. And then we did obviously not have the information on here, but one of the things that we also asked on here was if people wanted to be connected with someone, so that we have that information and are able to get some people connected if they would like that. And then this next slide just shares a little bit of information about different opportunities that people might be interested in. And you can see it's kind of all over the board there. So those are some things that we can look into to figure out what might be best for thinking about providing and how and when the time is right too. Because we know that there's a lot of screen time for everybody and we just want to be mindful of that too. Questions for me?
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions or comments from the board?
Great. Mr. President, just a point of order. We have a Board of Education policy that says about 9 o'clock at night, our student representative can be dismissed from the meeting, and I see us at that 9 o'clock hour. Kate, we're so grateful that you've joined us on our team here tonight, and certainly you're welcome to stay on, but we also know that you have other responsibilities, including hopefully a little bit of sleep. If you don't mind just a moment just to acknowledge Kate, and in so doing allow us to transition to the other voice that's important here. Of course, our teacher's voice, our staff's voice is so critical, but it's important that we also honor our parents' voice. And recently we sent a survey to our families that mirrored the survey that was sent out this past spring. And the purpose of that was just to see how are we doing around online learning. And you'll see the link there in your materials, and I won't belabor the details, but suffice to say, we had far more families that completed that survey this time around than we did back in April 2020. And so what we tried to do is show a comparison between April 2020 and September 2020, and then I put in a box that just kind of gives you some percentile differences. For those who are following along at home and maybe you want to see what this breakdown is by grade level, all you have to do is just follow the tabs along the bottom and you can see who responded at each grade level. Again, April 2020 here, September 2020 here. There are a couple of areas that I thought might be helpful just to kind of touch base on with the board. When it comes to daily instruction, is the porridge just right, or is it too much, or is it not enough? And what we found is that the vast majority of respondents, about 72% of respondents, said that everything seems to be just right. Although we do have some folks who broke out to it's just not enough, a difference of 6.2% since the last administration of this very same survey. And some who still feel like maybe it's a little too rigorous. When it comes to level of support, you can see this question gets to the heart of what some of our families had mentioned here earlier this evening. How would you describe that level of support that parents need to be providing to their children? And we're seeing increasingly that many of our children are not able to work independently. In fact, we've seen about a 7% drop since the last administration of this survey as to where those issues arise. Now here again, just following that little tab along the bottom, if you can see my cursor here, you can find the breakout as to how this occurs. Do we see more at one grade level than another? A tip of the hat, again, yet to our teachers and our staff who are doing such an exceptional job of communicating with families. And this was the frequency of communication. Is it too much? Is it not enough? And 8 in 10 respondents said, indeed, it's spot on. Some who feel like it's a little overwhelming from teachers but about a 5.5% increase in the number of families who felt like maybe we just weren't doing enough. And interestingly enough, that same holds true for the administration. Is the administration communicating, either the principal or the district personnel, the superintendent? Are we communicating enough? About 85% said yes. And then the change administration over administration broke out relatively evenly between too much and not enough. But here's where I'm going to take us just in the interest of time. And this has to do with technology. This is a series of questions, quite frankly, that are new to the survey that we felt deserved some discussion. Much of the feedback we received from our staff in the staff survey, was that our technology was not where it needed to be. In fact, many staff members expressed frustration in their comments that technology was wanting. And wouldn't you know it, when we asked the question of our community, this is what they told us. Has your child been dropped, frozen, locked out during the Google Meets? And it looks like about almost 73% of our parents said, yes, that is true. My child has had that occur. And then we asked the follow-up question, how often has this occurred? And while rarely takes the cake here, there are some who are indicating that this is happening multiple times per hour. And when we dig even further, we ask the question, what devices are they using at the time that this occurs? And we're finding that the vast majority of the respondents are indicating this is happening when we have district-provided Chromebooks. One of the things we're finding is that when we bought these Chromebooks, we thought for sure that these were going to serve us well. They're going to be in the classroom, and we wouldn't have to worry about having high-speed processors in our Chromebooks. No one ever suspected in a million years that the Chromebooks we would need to be multi-processors. And so that's where I think we're seeing some of the hiccups that we're seeing when it comes to the actual hardware. From the internet side of the house, I will tell you that that's one of the places whereby actually we're doing really well with. In fact, our network administrator, I ask him every morning, how are we doing on bandwidth? And he tells me we're not even at 50% capacity. So the issues that people are experiencing with bandwidth, we're finding it's happening likely on the other side of the house, so to speak, at the end user side. And we've been sending some of our tech resources out to homes, actually, and been working to optimize routers. Some folks have a 2.4 gigahertz router and also have the capacity to use a 5.0 gigahertz router. And we've been helping them through that as well. And lastly, just a plug for those who are listening tonight that might still be having issues. Our partnership with Mount Horeb Telecommunications, allowing the pipeline to come through the school district, seems to be working well for those families who are accessing it. For a very nominal fee, Mount Horeb Telecommunications is willing to work that out, and I'm grateful that the board allowed us to move in this direction. Other updates in the land of COVID. I put in the public section of our agenda item not only the employee surveys, but the staff surveys, but then also a neat link that was shared with me about Mount Horeb in general and how many cases cumulative there are in our community, Mount Horeb proper. And you'll also note in that section, thank you, Leah Lipska, for getting access to this for us. We've been keeping track now since September 23rd to see the actual number of cumulative COVID counts. And you'll see since September 23rd, we were at about 87, and today we're at about 107 cumulative now. And sometimes you'll see numbers go backwards. I'm assuming maybe that might have to do with testing false positives or just human error and reporting. But we wanted to share that information with you. Lastly, it's important to note a comment that our teacher leaders have made. Thank you, Mr. Jansen, for the comment with regard to our criteria for moving forward. I'm going to share my screen one more time if you'll indulge me. The Board of Education called on July 27th for the administration to develop a return to school or a gradual reopening plan. And on April 3rd, we presented this in draft format. And then on April 17th, the board approved in full this document. And you'll note, just as the teacher leaders have indicated, that wanting to stay in tune with the 54 that was established by Public Health Madison-Dane County as the benchmark, we wanted to take it even a further step to ensure our student safety, that we established even more data benchmarks. And it is important to note right now, our 2-week declining trend in 7-day average of new cases is red. And I know that because I went to their website and noticed that it's red here on the Public Health Madison-Dane County website. We're proposing, as was approved by the board, that this be a 2-week decline. We went from 179 2 weeks ago to 139, and then, as you know, on Thursday nights, folks, Public Health Madison-Dane County puts out their latest numbers, and we hope that it will go in a favorable direction. And in addition, we established 2 more metrics that weren't part of the Public Health Madison-Dane County litmus test, but we thought were important just to go the extra mile to ensure greater emphasis was added to protecting our students and our staff. That has to do with lab reporting and community spread. We noted that we would like to see this as yellow. And when you go to Public Health Madison-Dane County tonight, you'll notice that those are in the red category. So we'll talk more about this in a moment, but I did just want to mention that the sole prognosticator of whether or not we return to school for our K-2 students is not merely that 52, but other metrics that have been provided that have been approved by the board, I should say. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments for Steve? All right.
Board members, if you don't mind me launching into what we're proposing as a very high-level plan, and the word high level is purposeful in here tonight because we know that there's lots of discussion that needs to happen in the weeds, and we can't make those decisions without the input of our faculty and staff. And so over the course of the past, I want to say 2 weeks, we have proposed a number of things to staff. Actually had one faculty meeting with the entire staff, asked for their input about 3 items just designed to kind of get the conversation started, nothing more than that. And we certainly respect our teacher and staff members' times that rather than getting into the weeds, if such a plan is not even approved, we thought it would be wise just to wait and hear from the board before we get into digging into the weeds. So this is purposely called a high-level reopening plan. I think regardless of where you're at in this, whether you're for returning to school or whether or not you're opposed to returning to school, I strongly believe each and every single person is moved by the best interest of our kids. This is the question that motivates us all, isn't it? How are the kids? A return to K-2 instruction is not about being right or being wrong. It's simply a choice. It's a choice for young people and our families. I know there's trepidation from our loving staff, and respecting all voices around this is absolutely paramount at this time. There are still a lot more questions than there are answers. And as we talk with other districts who've already implemented K-2 instruction, guess what? They still have answers, and they've been doing it now for 24 plus days. I do have one answer, though. We have the best and brightest informing our path forward. If this concept is approved, there will be setbacks. We will all second guess ourselves regarding this outcome. Either way, every one of us will second guess ourselves. However, it will be these very same people who can help us overcome and problem solve any issue, because we are all thinking about the kids. What's the history here? Well, we know that, as I just mentioned, the board approved a virtual plus plan through the first quarter of this upcoming school year. They did that back on July 27th. And we've seen some great success with some students, special needs students, coming into the schoolhouse. I arranged 11 different work groups to align with the DPI's plan, and those were developed to inform recommendations to the Board of Education. And as you recall, those were reported out back on August the 3rd. These work groups consisted of staff and parents, medical advisors, and even students. And then our board unanimously approved the administration's gradual reopening plan back on August 17th, and I just spoke of that just a couple of moments ago. That plan is girded in the recommendations of the scientists and epidemiologists working with Public Health Madison-Dane County.
Steve?
Our current status. Oh, please.
Steve, could you share that? We're not seeing the presentation. Were you going to share that on the screen?
Well, I sure should. Sorry about that. Thank you, Rachel. I beg your pardon. Can you all see that now? Can you see it now? No.
No.
Okay, please hold. So stop sharing. How about now?
Yep.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for telling me that. What's our current status?
It is there, Steve. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you helping to correct me there. I apologize for any inconvenience. What's our current status? Well, Public Health Madison-Dane County continues to recommend K-2 students and staff be able to return to school. This despite their numbers as of late. Chief concerns in our mid-September employee survey was the fact that technology was not meeting our staff members' needs and the concerns expressed by our families. It was not meeting our needs. It's important to note that returning Q2 is self-imposed. It is an artificial deadline. And it's important to note that this decision has many, many, many layers. We should not make a decision that's capricious nor arbitrary, but rather grounded in the science. And so to that question, I have repeatedly asked, and I think Mrs. McMillan, you referenced this in your comments earlier this evening, Public Madison-Dane County has acknowledged concerning trends about what they've seen in terms of numbers, but they have not altered their recommendations related to K-2. In fact, their exact words to me on a call were as follows. We are not seeing strong outbreaks in K-2 schools. I try to be an optimist, but the pessimist came out in me in a phone call with Public Health Madison-Dane County, and I said to them, well, the reason why you're not seeing outbreaks in K-2 schools is because there's not many K-2 schools in session. And they pushed back on me, and they said, we have plenty of private schools, and there are some other school districts that are currently running K-2 programs, and we're not seeing large outbreaks. To those who are uninitiated, it's important to discern the difference between the word spread and outbreaks. An outbreak is considered by Public Health Madison-Dane County as a threshold of 2 or more confirmed cases not in the same family. But that wasn't enough for me. I asked them more. What does this number 54 represent? Public Health Madison-Dane County's exact words to me were, 54 does not mean schools must close. It means that Public Health Madison-Dane County will reassess closure when we're above 54. I pushed some more, and I asked, what do you consider then when you're sitting at 139 and you're so far away from 54? Here's what they told me. If Dane County surpasses 54 cases over a 14-day average, Public Health Madison-Dane County will review local data to determine whether county-wide closure of in-person instruction is recommended. Public Health Madison-Dane County will review outbreak data and make a determination based on several factors, including but not limited to the number of positive cases, the extent of exposure, and contact tracing capacity. I ask the question again. Do you recommend school districts K1 and 2 are able to return to school? And their response was yes. Rachel Johnson, I think you're going to pick up with this next slide.
I am, just needed to unmute. So as Steve had stated at the beginning, you know, we just spent a couple weeks here just starting to think about what that might look like. I want to be very clear that any full plans would be needing to be done with a school team. But we started talking to others. That's one of the things is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to experience it or to blaze trails because there are others that are currently doing this. So we did speak to several school districts, and here's a few things we've learned. You need to have a lot of, as our kids call it, sanitizer. Our little ones, that's what they call it. Masks need to be on everyone, and let's be clear with this. If someone can't wear or doesn't want to wear a mask, we'll respect that. And we know that we've got the full hybrid option or full virtual option that will make those students still successful for those who would not be able to wear masks. We learned that it's so important to keep signs outside classrooms, kind of like a sign-in, and that allows us as staff to be able to keep track of who's going in and out of a room on a daily basis. That's great for possible contact tracing. We know that we need to work on distancing and the things we will remind students and staff of the most. But you'll see in the future part of the presentation some things we're already thinking about to try to minimize the need for those reminders. We know that bus transportation is going to have a lot of limitations when we discuss this with other grades coming back, but we know that we have already heard from our parents in some capacity that they may have the opportunity to help us in that area. And we also learned that it's important to minimize the outside potential risks, and so no visitors would be allowed, period, at this time.
We asked the board during our last meeting, tell us, what does the board need in order to make a decision? And here's what you said to us: a plan that's well informed by our staff, a high-level plan, and that's what we're about to share with you tonight. A plan for outbreak and screening, and the good news is Public Health Madison-Dane County has developed this, and it's been a part of our website now for several weeks. Parental education materials. What will school closure look like? And then the common question, because we care about our kids, will children have to switch teachers? RJ, can you take care of this first one for us, a plan that's well informed by staff?
Yeah, we actually held a couple meetings. We held a meeting with the kindergarten group just to share out some ideas, but then we invited anybody on the call on the 23rd of September. We had 70+ people on that call to learn a little bit, to hear and basically listen, and we did a lot of that. We shared 3 different just developmental plans that we've come up with, just some ideas, and staff were given some time to give us their feedback. That was in that moment and then also in a survey. And then again, the staff were surveyed by us and then also provided a survey by our HR department in September. So with that, this is the overall survey data that came out of the question about the opportunity for blended learning in the daily sessions and how staff felt about students returning to the schoolhouse in some capacity. And so you can see here the information from our paraprofessional staff, those who from strongly supported to strongly opposed, and then from our teaching staff. Those were the 2 groups that we reported out. Our administrative assistants and our custodians were not listed in this data because we felt that that data was too small and might release information that could really relay personal opinions, and we wanted to protect that.
And that is the ELC and PC data disaggregated from the total data that we shared with the board moments ago. The other kinds of things we want the board to know as it relates to the question, they wanted a plan that's well informed by our staff. I gotta tell you, our employees have to begin thinking about themselves first. And this is very seldom done. As a helping service, as a helping profession, we often put others in front of our own needs. But for the very first time, in many instances, we're asking our employees to think about their needs and those of their loved ones with a serious health condition. And quite frankly, where applicable, our employees should absolutely be permitted to take the very same leave every other American is afforded. And they should do so without any guilt or scorn. I am really concerned because that's weighing heavily in a lot of our staff members' minds. The data that our teachers thoughtfully just shared with us a moment ago indicate that there are many who are thinking about taking any leave, and they should be able to do so by thinking about themselves and their family and not feeling guilty about doing it. It's important, though, that I tell you, board members, that that could have a potential impact on our ability to meet the request of returning to school. We saw that 12% of the 42 respondents said that they would take leave if they had to come back to school. If my math is correct, that equates to about 5 teachers. Another 45% of those 42 teachers said they might take leave. They might take leave. Now, assuming that everyone would qualify for that leave, not everyone will. Let's just assume for that sake, if 45% of 42 teachers take that leave, that equals 19 teachers. All total, the 5 and the 19, that's 24 teachers who could take leave soon. If a K-2 plan is approved, we would have to begin advertising long-term substitute positions immediately. We could not wait. And we want to only do what our staff needs. We want to support them and have them think about themselves and their families first. I'll tell you this much, we've spent all summer working with our employees to assist them in making a decision that is right for them. We continue to be as flexible as we can, and when we can't, we're going to go down trying. We do know that that leave, as was referenced earlier, CARES Act leave, is only available through December 31st. But we do know that there's some discussion about Congress possibly extending that leave after a return from the election recess. So we want the board to know that if we're going to move in this direction, we're going to need to call in for some additional reinforcements. And I will mention the need for substitutes. We need to start on that right away. So for the reasons I've just identified, well, actually, Rachel, this is your slide. I beg your pardon.
That's okay. You know, this is one of the many questions I know that will be out there from teachers and students. And again, I want to hit home. There will be plenty of questions that I would count on our school team to help solve. The answer is we don't know the extent of a rebalancing. There's, as Steve had alluded to, there are 2 big questions out there. How many parents will want to remain virtual and how many staff will request leave? All in all, though, it is so important through this process that we come together as a team and we decide how best to tackle that question along with many others. I know through even our planning at the beginning of August, I had teachers coming with different ideas that were wonderful that we worked forward in and tried to make come to fruition. And I look forward to working with the team to figure that out. But until then, it will be answering these 2 questions will help us determine our next steps for our students. Ultimately, we would love to make no changes at all. We understand the relationships that our teachers have wholeheartedly worked on with their students, and our students have really bonded with their teacher. So know that we'll do everything we can to minimize that if we need to.
The third item that the board said to us they needed to have some semblance of comfort with is a plan for the outbreak and screening. And as I referenced at the onset of our discussion this evening, I mentioned that this plan has been in place for a number of months now and has been on our district's front web page on how to deal with the outbreak and screening. And staff members have been trained as part of a summer orientation, web-based orientation on what the plan is. We all want to live in a black and white world, and we want to know if this happens, then why it happens. And we know that that's just not always possible. We must depend on the fact patterns involved in each of the circumstances. We have had 5 confirmed cases of staff members since March 13th who've contracted the COVID virus. Each of those has caused us to take time to communicate with the scientists and epidemiologists at Public Health Madison-Dane County in order to determine if a shutdown for a period of time is warranted. Could a shutdown occur? Absolutely. We're not immune to it. We know our neighbors just off to the west and also to the east have experienced shutdowns after having started the school year. But again, we go back to the information from Public Health Madison-Dane County that tells us K-2 instruction is recommended. What about conducting temperature screenings, interviews with students at the start of each day? We've heard lots and lots of great ideas. Yes, we can do all that, but that means it's going to be at a loss of time from technology. We lack the personnel, and quite frankly, again, if we're listening to our scientists and epidemiologists, it's just not required. What is required? You can see the symptoms along the bottom of this screen. Parents, if our kids come to school presenting themselves at the office with multiple systems, when you get that call, we expect that you will respond and pick up your student. I can't imagine how difficult this is on our families right now, but we can take nothing to chance at this point. And we need you to know that it's in the interest of not only your child, but that of the greater good, that if you get that call, know that we're not trying to make someone's life miserable. We're just trying to follow the protocols designed to keep everyone safe. I've heard stories, quite frankly, from other superintendents who've said that sometimes kids are coming to school with baby aspirin and other kinds of things in order to mask high fever. Please don't do that. If we do come back to school, we need you to continue to be the outstanding partners we know that you have always been. We don't want to put anyone at risk. Parent education materials. That was something else someone asked us about. What will school closure look like? We will follow the recommended communication plan of the CDC and Public Health Madison-Dane County. And as of right now, it does not include communication regarding case of contact, only contract. We have gone an extra step as a school district to communicate to our staff and to applicable families, even when there's been contact. But we can't continue to do that with the resources we have. We can consider more. However, we need to be mindful of the fact that much of the fact pattern involving these most recent cases is protected by HIPAA. And people often ask us questions that we can't answer for them as much as we'd like to. But when we can't answer those questions, we need people to know that the responses have been well thought out and have been in consultation with nurses and medical advisors in Public Health Madison-Dane County. Our commitment to you is to continue to communicate via those systems you see here on the television screen. And I am calling on the development of a new system that would be a weekly dashboard to our families. And hopefully I can share this with you as well. You can click on that link and you'll notice that this is just a mock example, but we want to provide our families with real-time information about the number of students who are required to be quarantined, the number of staff who are required to be quarantined, current positive cases and the like. It's important that you have that information so that you can make informed decisions. That's just one more step that we're wanting to take to ensure our staff's safety and our students are well cared for. Our Director of Instruction, Sarah Straka, is here to talk about some of the ideas that were shared with our faculty and staff. Not any one of these ideas is cemented or solid. Rather, they're just ideas for a basis of conversation. And we look forward to the feedback of our community and our staff in building whatever is the right pathway forward. Good evening, Sarah. Welcome to the call.
Thank you, Dr. Salerno. Yes. So we knew that we needed to bring some plans and some options to the board to consider for a potential reopening. So we have a couple options here for you. The first option is option A, and option A is to remain in status quo. Remain for all of our K-12 students in the virtual model, and then continue 4K in the model where it is currently face-to-face. But in order to have another option, we have option B. And in option B, we're looking at two things. First off is to begin a hybrid model, a blended learning model for our K-2 students. And I'll talk about what that looks like in a little bit. But we also want to maintain that virtual track for those families that want to remain 100% virtual. So again, allowing those two options for families. And then per Madison Public Health, Dane County, grades 3 through 12 would remain virtual as well. So what does this blended instructional model look like? So overall vision for it, a couple of our main goals. We want to make sure kids continue their exposure to new learning and that they can gain a deeper concept, really practice those skills with their teacher in order to get that immediate feedback. And that's a piece where we're still working on in the virtual format to make sure that there's that feedback loop going between students and staff. So it's nice for that child to be in that classroom to get that immediate feedback from that teacher. So a couple considerations, looking at class sizes and making sure we can balance those, playing with classroom schedules. And again, as Mrs. Johnson said, working with staff on that. And then also a piece that we are looking at and doing more learning on is that intermittent live streaming. So what does that really look like for our cohorts? Back in, I believe, June, we sent out a survey to families asking if families would like an AA or a BB schedule, or a AB or AB schedule. And overwhelmingly, I think about 3/4 of families wanted the AABB schedule. So in looking at that, we had to divide students into cohorts by last name, and the best balance was an A through K and an L through Z model. So just to show what an example could look like for a week for students in a cohort A or cohort B, Monday through Tuesday for cohort A students, they would be on site in their classroom with their peers and their teacher learning. Wednesday would continue to be a off day for students for that independent learning piece, and also staff can prepare materials for staff for students when they're on campus. And then that Thursday, Friday, we're looking at some type of intentional use of that intermittent live streaming, not a whole day, a shorter portion of a day, so students who are at home can still get some of that live learning along with their classmates. But then also be a time where work would go home with students that they would be practicing and doing some of that independent learning as well. Then for students in the cohort L through Z, that schedule just gets flipped. They have their live instruction on Thursday and Fridays with their teacher, and they're doing the learning at home through practice and independent learning that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'll go on the next slide. So what does that look like for related arts then and movement? We've been hearing concerns and wonders about how much children may have to sit. So we really want to look at how do we make that safe, that movement either within the building or within the classroom safe for students and staff. So a couple of our main goals though, we want to make sure that kids have exposure to They're related to arts courses because we really believe that that whole child approach is so important, especially at the K2 level, and making sure kids can have those hands-on activities and experiences. So we have to look at the movement within the building and movement in the classroom and how these courses are scheduled. So we can look at it through two lenses in two ways. On the left side, looking at that movement outside of the classroom. We'll have to look at arrival and departure, not only from the school building itself, but maybe if kids are moving between classes or throughout the building. Phy-Ed is a course that potentially could have students moving to, whether it's in the gym or outside for class. And then recess, looking at safe ways that the kids can be outside with their peers playing, but making sure that we have our cohorts separated outside to keep track of where kids are going. Within the classroom, we are looking at how we can have lunch in a safe way, snack in a safe way, looking at possibly having art, music, guidance, and library either streamed into the classroom or specialists coming into the classroom. We want to work with our teams on that to find creative ways to make that work for everybody. And then hand washing. I believe all K2 classrooms, or almost all K2 classrooms, have hand washing stations within that classroom, so students have access to washing their hands frequently. But then we'll also have our PPE and sanitizing solutions there as well, so we can make sure that those surfaces are cleaned throughout the day. So class size. So the reason why we're looking at a hybrid model is to make sure that we can socially distance and physically distance students within the classroom. So we want to make sure that we can have a good flow within the classroom as well. So so on this slide, we just did a little math to really see what that could look like. So for example, as of August, we had 134 kindergartners enrolled. And based on the survey that families took when they did their online registration, we found about 21% of families wanted hybrid, which equaled to be about, I think about 30 students. So if 30 students remained virtual, that means we would probably need about 2 staff members to also be the solely virtual teachers for those kids. That leaves about 105 students left who would be coming into the building and coming into their classrooms. Well, if we're in a hybrid model, we would say, okay, half the students come on A days and half the students come on B days, which equals to be about 53, 52 students. When you divide that number of students across 6 classrooms, that's really about 8 to 9 students in that kindergarten classroom each day. So based on that number, we are confident that we can make sure that those kids are physically distanced by at least 6 feet. And then you can see the other examples for grade 1 and grade 2. And based on the data that we had in August from families, how those numbers would shake out as well, with first grade having about 9 students in that room per day and about maybe 10 to 11 in the second grade classrooms. Given the square footage of both those spaces, we can easily make sure kids are physically distanced 6 feet or more. Now, we will have to collect and go back to families and do a round 2, I guess, of survey information to ask families again, do you want your child to be 100% virtual, or would you like your child to be in this hybrid model? So if the board does move forward with this plan tonight, we would then survey families this week to collect that information, because that will determine staffing for us, both in a virtual model and a hybrid model. And then we would be working with families about when this model change could occur for them. I think this is Rachel's slide.
So this is just a sample, just an example of what a week might look like for a student. And again, we had the opportunity to talk to several districts who are successfully doing multiple different approaches, whether it's streaming students in for a period of time or actually freeing teachers up to have small group online instruction for those kids who are at home for a period of time, on top of having those students on site. We recognize the amount of work that needs to be done in truly identifying the Viking way, which will take a team of people to come together to find a plan that works best for students. And so here's just some examples. And then again, we really wanted to show that there are opportunities for our students to have that important literacy and math instruction, but to take care of the whole child and provide other opportunities within their learning day. We also recognize, though, that there are other models that we can mirror ourselves after or develop our own, but this is just an example to show one thought we were having. Whether we're hybrid or a virtual model, again, we're going to have to work closely with staff. I mean, even if we stay in a virtual model, we've got parent feedback that tells us things that we can be doing to support them from home. Either way, it will take our entire team to wrap around that information to make the best decisions for our students. It's me. So some of the things we've done about safety and risk mitigation. If I could share a few things. So first of all, physical signage and distancing. So we have signage everywhere, and we continue to find signage to post. We understand, though, that even our littles can't read it all. So we've got physical markers. You walk into either one of our ELC or PC buildings. We have social distancing dots on our playgrounds. We have them all over the walls on both buildings. The yellow 6 feet apart one can be found along the walls in both the ELC and PC, going up the stairs, going down the hallways. The hope there is that a teacher can say, choose a dot, and they're guaranteeing that kids are 6 feet apart. Our floors are also marked for whether they're marking spots that students can stand, or the lines down the center are providing right and left side walkways so that our students can continue to use the hallway in both directions, but stay physically distanced. We've worked on maximum capacity signage already. I pulled out my handy dandy tape measure, and we went around and we measured spaces, and we looked at what was feasible for distancing in specific spots. Any bathroom or any that would hold more than one student or adult, on top of smaller spaces like our small group rooms, had maximum capacity signs installed to help staff and students gauge how many people can be in there safely. And currently our bubblers are closed, but I'm thankful that Dave Reed is working with us to install water bottle fillers, touchless water bottle fillers, so that our students and staff can also still get the hydration they need. We have plexiglass partitions in our offices and in our libraries in both buildings. We have already put those pieces in place. Again, even when the board made that very difficult decision at the beginning of August, we knew we had to prepare for staff to return. So all of these things have been in the works and in place since the school year began. We knew that it was important to get these in place, not only for our staff, but also for our Virtual Plus students who have started to join us. We also went room to room. The custodians did a great job with me trying to take the current furniture that is in those spaces and be able to socially distance them. So this is an example of a PC classroom. And you see that there are 2 desks that are together. Well, that's not intended to have 2 students sitting next to each other, but literally one of those desks being an A student desk and the other desk being for those B part of the week students. So really being thoughtful about that. We also, though, recognize that we need to work with staff if we come back to say, okay, now we know how we laid this out, but we are open for what your ideas are to be able to follow all of the requirements, but make the room setup the best possible learning environment and safest environment for all. That might mean doing some furniture replacement in some places or being super creative. We've also created isolation spaces in both buildings already. If you go to the ELC or PC, and it's hard to see on the right-hand side of the photo there, but literally shower curtains or dividers that have been established in our isolation spaces. Our current PC mail room has now turned into an isolation space separate from the first aid stations that are available in both buildings, so that we can still meet those boo-boo needs or that students might have in a different place than those students who are being isolated, waiting to be picked up by a parent. So some things, and again, we're thinking about that all the buildings have personal protective equipment available. Pam Shaw and CJ Goodwin have worked tirelessly to get stuff for us. Dave Reed, thank you also for all of the work and getting those things available. We have sanitizer stations and wipes and things that are located and ready for our staff to use. We have cleaning protocols in place. I know somebody mentioned this earlier. Our custodians are working tirelessly. Our ELC one has been waiting for me to leave so he can take care of the building. But they're so diligent in their work, and we're so thankful for the protocols that they're following. Want to point out, one of the things we've done is we've created a Google Doc for our custodians. We know we have our Virtual Plus students in-house, and we so love having them. But this document is allowing our custodians to know what spaces are being used, at what time and on what days by our students and staff for those particular Virtual Plus opportunities, so they can be thoroughly and deeply cleaned. We will have to have recess plans and those cohorts in mind. Again, we'll need that team approach to make the Viking way happen. We will have to talk about what breakfast, lunch, and snack protocols look like. And again, we'll use the guidance that's provided for us by Madison, the Public Health Madison-Dane County, on top of our Forward Dane and Education Forward information, on top of our team's work to come up with those plans.
But you know, we still haven't thought about everything. And that's where we really rely on more detail coming from those who are on the front lines doing the heavy lifting. What about? You know, you'll have to shut down at some point, don't you? Yeah. We are like every other public entity that must consistently assess our current safety conditions. And that means every day we're on the phone with Public Health Madison-Dane County, we're consulting with them, and responding to each unique fact pattern with the well-being of everyone entrusted to our care top of our mind. Parents, we're going to need you to have a backup plan to implement in the event that we do need to shut down. We know that that's a hardship, especially when we have little ones. Staff, your continued flexibility will be necessary if we need to pivot to online, remote learning with little or no advance notice. Some may ask, well, what's the duration of time schools might be out? Well, that's part of the protocol that's been established and communicated to our staff and is on our district's website. We're going to follow that. So why do you need 4 weeks to restart school? What in the heck could possibly take so long? Well, as you know, establishing a hybrid model that's amenable to the most number of people means coordinating new and safe transportation plans that meet the requests of our families. Our families will drive how we go about our transportation. Adjusting our school nutrition delivery process and aligning our labor accordingly will be a factor for us to consider. And then matching the individual needs of the 550 plus K2 students and families' requests with our employees who have serious health conditions or have a loved one that they need to care for. And as I mentioned earlier, the latter may necessitate finding substitutes and rescheduling of students. Will everything be the same as it was on January 1st? Oh, how I'd love to tell you yes. But no, it won't be. Even if our kids can get back into schools, our kids could likely be eating in their classrooms. PE and recess would likely be the only time kids would be traveling around the building. Transportation is still going to be a bugger. And if you can support or encourage walking or biking to school, assuming of course the weather permits, we thank you. There's lots of weeds to dig into. We don't have all the answers yet. Some staff members will ask the question, will education ever look the same, exactly the same? And I think the answer is no. But that's what makes it exciting, is we have the chance to collectively work together in order to do what's in the best interest of our kids. For example, some of our teachers wisely have said, you know, if we pivot to this hybrid model, we're really going to need some time to plan this. And so if it is a start to the second quarter, that's to be determined. We would support November 4th through the 6th being a time in which our teachers in K2 could just have some time to plan, to collect their thoughts, to partner, collaborate on lesson plans, look at what the curriculum is and think how best to deliver it, and launch potentially on or around November 9th and 10th, which would be the start to the school year. We also need time to gather parent preferences, and we need to assemble a revised staffing plan to reflect the needs of our staff. And we also need to think about what are the on and off ramps for our kids, those who need to come out of hybrid and into full virtual. And I suspect full virtual into hybrid might be less of an option, at least in the interim, because we are basing our staffing levels based upon what our families tell us. So I end where we began. How are the kids? We know that our kids are resilient. We know that we love them. We know that everybody will do everything they can to help support them in a quality learning environment. And we know that we don't take the trust and the support that you've given our faculty and staff for granted. Please know that this is the beginning. We're happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Thank you for listening to us this evening.
All right, questions for Steve or Rachel or no question.
I have a question. So this has been a great presentation. I can see that a lot of work has gone into it. There are so many moving parts and so much to think about. And I don't want what I'm about to say to detract from that at all. I'm worried. The bottom line is that there are kids at all grade levels that are suffering right now. And I'm afraid that the older kids and their families are going to feel like we've forgotten them. So I would just like to throw a question out there. Is there anyone else on the board besides me that would support bringing kids above grade 2, back for some in-person learning? Okay.
Danny, I'm with you in theory. I can't get myself over the numbers that the public health department has set. I think very thoughtfully for 3 to 5. I do think the 6 to 12 number is a number that is unrealistic. So I think when we get to the point where the numbers are looking better and we're looking at 6 to 12, and we have the conversations with the public health department, like the ones that Steve is having now, that there's a possibility to do that, even in the absence of of a 14-day average of 19 or whatever it is over 4 weeks. So I'm gonna support moving to K2 for the second quarter, but I just can't do it for 3 to 5, and certainly not for 6 to 12 at this stage of the game. And but I say that agreeing with what you've said about kids throughout our population hurting in real significant ways.
Yeah, and all I would say to that is that I don't believe our reality in Mount Horeb necessarily matches the reality in Madison or even Dane County as a whole. And at some point, I think there's a bigger picture to be taken into consideration here with regard to mental health and with regard to the stress and the strain that our families are under. And if I sound a little emotional, I apologize, but I am, because it's just, you know, the stories I'm hearing and the emails I'm reading are just soul crushing.
Right.
And at some point, I think we've got to pick our own path to a degree. You know, we're always talking about how important local control is. And I feel a little like we've ceded that control to the county. And I don't know, I don't know that that's the right thing.
Well, I think that the other thing that's at work here is there's still, frankly, a myth circulating that there are record numbers of positive tests being generated in this county. That is demonstrably false. I mean, we had a high number of 487 cases on the 9th of September. Roughly 75% of those cases, I think, were UW students. From that time until yesterday, when the positive case number was 49, we've come an awful long way, and yet we're still somehow having this discussion about record case numbers. So Danny, I want to tell you that I'm with you, and if we can maintain a reasonably low level of positive cases, I'll make the motion, because I agree with you. And there's one thing that you and I agreed on when we argued against all virtual, that we had no idea what the impact on mental health was going to be. We thought we had a pretty good idea, but we were right. We didn't know. We didn't know. And it has been much more profound, absolutely much more profound than anyone could have guessed.
All right, well, I'm going to keep bringing it up. So.
No, this is Diana. Sorry, I don't know. I don't disagree with either of you. I think you're absolutely right. There's a profound effect on the mental health of not just the kids, but the family units in general in a lot of cases. I think we've seen it. I think we've heard it. Some of the, like you said, Danny, I echo that some of the emails we've gotten are so hard to read. And to know that that's happening in our community, it's just, it's so tough. The case counts, I mean, there's that, but I worry about the hospitalizations. We've just hit a peak, hopefully. I mean, hopefully it goes down from here, but we just hit the highest number of hospitalizations in Dane County. And that's something I worry about, because if hospitals don't have capacity, then that's a bigger problem.
We'll get to this, or we maybe not. Hopefully we can deal with K2 very, very directly tonight. But I think one of the mistakes that we made, and I'll raise my hand and take responsibility for it, one of the mistakes that we made when we went to all virtual is we nailed the reconsideration of it to the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. And I think that the administration needs a lot more flexibility. The fact of it is, I think we missed an opportunity. We missed an opportunity when the Department of Public Health first said that we could bring K2 back, and we were locked in this sort of end of quarter, beginning of second quarter timetable that we had set for ourselves, and we missed that opportunity. So I have a solution to that if another one doesn't work. But I do think that's an issue worth raising, and that is that we can't miss opportunities. We can't miss opportunities to do things like the opportunity that we missed. When was that? A month, 6 weeks or so ago, longer. I don't know. We've got to be on top of things like that.
This is Jessica. I think that it's apparently clear that we all think that it would be best for our students to be back in the classroom, whether they're K2, middle school, high school. This is hard on all of our students. This is hard on our parents. This is hard on our teachers. It's hard on everyone. But as Mr. Jansen and Dr. Salino both pointed out, and I printed it out in my home, we agreed unanimously on a plan. People have asked for a plan. We unanimously agreed on a plan of what steps what criteria we need to meet to move to the next phase in reopening our schools. So I think that that's something that we have to consider. You know, I mean, we unanimously agreed on this, and
I'll just say that I think that chaining ourselves to what Public Health Madison says was a mistake, and I'm sorry I voted that way.
I for example, when are we going to get to 19 cases, an average of 19 cases, new cases, on a 14-day average that's sustained for 4 weeks? When are we ever going to get to that number? I mean, we will never get to that number. Never. Never, particularly when there are students on the campus. Dane County Public Health said on September 14th that 74% of the new cases in Dane County between September 1st and September 14th were UW students. That's why we saw 487. And then those numbers now are down to 10, 13, 15. So, you know, Danny, I think that you've raised a terrific discussion. When we get to 6 to 12, you know, it's just impossible. It's going to be impossible for us to get to 19 on a sustained basis. And then that's when we're going to have to do like some other communities have done and say, you know, what on the spectrum here, what are we willing to do? Understanding that this thing that this government agency put in place isn't attainable. It's totally unattainable.
And considering how long this is going to go on for.
Right.
I sat down with Steve last Thursday. I sat down with Steve last Thursday for about 20 minutes, just voicing my own frustrations about this stuff. And I told him that I really just didn't care anymore. I wanted to see K through 8 back in school. And if things work out, that maybe before Christmas we can let the rest of them come in. And I'm still hoping that can come to reality, because the seniors going out are suffering. The 8th graders coming into high school will be suffering. And everybody's suffering enough already.
I think this is a terrific discussion. I think we have two options. We can continue this discussion, or we can move to action items and have a discussion on a motion. I'm happy to do it either way.
So are you ready for a motion now?
Well, I just want to be sure that the group is ready to move on, but yes.
So I will move that we bring K through 2 back. I think that was option B, Sarah, is that right?
Option B?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will second the motion. I thought somebody else said. I didn't hear anybody. If someone seconded the motion before I did, let me know. I didn't hear anybody. Danny has made a motion. I have seconded a motion to bring K through 2nd grade back under option B. Is there any discussion?
Can I ask why we aren't at first considering revising our gradual reopening plan, if that's what we're doing? I mean, if that is what unanimously we voted on, isn't procedurally the proper course to revise that plan? I'm just asking for a point of clarification.
I don't think that that's necessary for us to vote on this.
Is there any further discussion?
This is Leah. I'm all for bringing K2 back if we hit everything in our plan, and I think that we should keep moving forward with planning, but I don't think we should say, yes, we're bringing K2 back right now. I think we should say, we're going to keep moving forward with planning, and when we hit those numbers, we're bringing K2 back, and if that isn't at the semester or at the quarter, so be it. But I think we need to hit the numbers that, and I get it for 6 through 12, 19 is not realistic, and we could look at that. But right now we're just trying to hit 54 and those couple of matrix to be yellow, and they're bright red.
Steve, didn't you say that Public Health Madison and Dane County aren't following their own recommendations right now, as far as those metrics go?
Well, so their metric is at 54. But again, they're not hard and fast on the 54 for the reasons I identified in when I quoted them.
Well, they're also, I think, as I understand it, they're also using language like they continue to recommend that kids in grades K through 2 be brought back to school. That's relatively strong language, I think, and
I did double check the question of, are they recommending? And they are. Those are their words in communication to us, both written and verbal in our meetings as well.
And my point isn't just to hit 54. I mean, we had other things in our gradual reopening plan that included the Forward Dane plan that we discussed, and we would hit yellow and they're red. So that's, I mean, the 54 is important, but also slightly irrelevant because there's more parts to our plan than just hitting the 54.
Yes, that's exactly right. The items that are currently red are the 2-week declining trend in 7-day average. The lab reporting times and contact tracing is red, and so is community spread metrics is red. And that's part of why we keep on posing the question to Public Health Madison. Is it appropriate? Are you still recommending that we can bring back staff? And their answer continues to be yes. But you're right, it's part of our plan.
My other concern, if you look at the numbers, when we voted back in July, we were at 54 accumulative cases in Mount Horeb, and we're now at 107, 108. So we've doubled, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't sound that bad, because it's been 3 months and that was 3 months worth, so we seemed right on schedule. So do you actually look at the numbers as of the 23rd, I think it was, we had like 87 and now we jumped to 107. So we've, in a week and a half period, have grown in Mount Horeb alone 20 plus cases. So you can assume if it's a 14-day period that people have symptoms and are sick, we probably have 20-ish active cases in Mount Horeb. That's a huge increase, and that freaks me out, along with the 47 peak or whatever record breaking in the hospitals in Dane County. I mean, Green Bay just got to 100% capacity at their hospitals, and they're putting in field hospitals. I don't want us to get there.
So that's 0.2% of our population in Mount Horeb. 0.2%.
Again, I come back to being disturbed that we're going to just disregard our own plan. I have a hard time imagining parents or staff would have faith in us if we simply disregard our plan. What does that mean for the hard planning that we have ahead when we have substitute shortages and teacher shortages, when we have to quarantine if we can't stick to our original plan? They'll think that anything can be changed. It's very difficult to work in these circumstances to disregard our plan.
I agree with Kimberly, and that was what I was trying to say earlier, that we unanimously approved a plan that includes several different measures. And if we vote now, not based on our plan, how does that set us up for the future?
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. I'm going to move to a roll call vote right out of the chute. Danny has moved and I have seconded a motion to bring students kindergarten through second grade back using option B. Danny?
Yes.
Diana?
No.
Jeff? Yes. Jessica?
No.
Kimberly?
No.
Leah?
No.
Leah's a no. I am a yes. 1, 2, yes. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. The no's are 4. The yeses are 3. The motion fails. So I need some help constructing a motion, and I know one person who might be willing to help me. Originally, I was going to make a motion that said something like the board gives the administration authority to proceed with bringing students in grades kindergarten through second as soon as the metrics in the reopening plan are met. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm happy to make that motion, but I'm not sure that's the best thing to do given the discussion that we had before. Can I put you on the spot, Danny?
Sure.
What would you think about? I mean, here's what I'm worried about. You know, I want to avoid a situation now where we're going to be at the end of January or mid-January dealing with a question like this all over again, when the numbers may continue to go down through December, In fact, they will, because we won't have college students on the campus. And so do we want, I guess the question for you, Danny, is do we want to continue to hitch our wagon to the metrics that are here, or do we want to amend the plan or use some other metrics to get us where we need to be?
So you're asking me that question?
Yes, I'm asking I'm asking your guidance.
Yeah, so I understand what everybody is saying about that, you know, we have a plan and we all voted on the plan. But this is a highly, highly complex situation with a lot to consider. And I am willing to admit that I made a mistake when I voted for that plan, because I think it was a mistake for us to make our decisions based upon the same metrics that the city of Madison is making its decisions based upon. Our reality out here is not the same. We just talked about the fact that our infection rate is 0.2%. I don't think that 0.2% warrants us keeping our kids out of the buildings. So I would support us changing the plan, and keep in mind that when I say that as a business person who understands how important strategic plans are and that you can't just change them willy-nilly. I get that.
Right.
So it's not my suggestion that we reevaluate our plan is not a suggestion that I make lightly, but I think we have to be willing to reevaluate, and we have to be willing to change the plan if the plan isn't suiting our needs.
So this is Diana. I would be very willing to change the plan. My only problem is that I'm not an epidemiologist. And that's, I think, why we were listening to Public Health Madison-Dane County, whether or not that was the right thing to do. If we are going to change the plan, I'd like to get some local physician and nurses to give us some sort of feedback on this, because that's not an area of expertise for me.
All right, well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a motion, and my motion is to give the administration the authority to proceed with K2 as soon as the metrics outlined in the gradual reopening plan are met.
I'll second that.
Pardon me?
This is Jessica. I'll second that.
Okay. And I would say, so I have moved and Jessica has seconded a motion to give the administration authority to proceed with K2 as soon as the metrics in the gradual reopening plan are met. I would say this is a separate issue from, at least in the longer term, from amending the plan. I think that needs to be done, but I also don't want to be here in the third week of January when we could have taken advantage of a nice sustained dip in the number of cases.
I think every day counts at this point a lot.
Rod, I have one question on your motion.
Yes.
So as soon as implies that if today we hit all these matrices, we would start tomorrow. And that isn't necessarily how it's going to work in reality. So as soon as, in the general term of as soon as it's feasibly possible, like in a week, in 2 weeks, or what is your?
It gives them the authority to proceed. And
I see. Okay.
So I think everyone, particularly after the presentation tonight, which was very, very thorough, everyone understands what the timeline is going to be. And so I just want to give the authority, the administration, the authority to proceed if the metrics that we've been talking about are met.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I clearly understood the motion.
Yep. Oh, we got the chat bar is going. All right. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I have moved and Jessica has seconded a motion to give the administration authority to proceed with bringing students in grades kindergarten through second grade back to school as soon as the metrics in the gradual reopening plan are met. We'll go to a roll call. Danny?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Jeff? Yes. Jessica?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The yeses are 7, the noes are 0. The motion carries, and we have given the administration the authority to proceed, etc. Is there any further action to come before the board on item 7A? That's the item that we're on now. Hearing none. Item 7B, long-range facilities plan. Consider recommendations from the Buildings, Grounds, and Transportation Committee to utilize further savings from referendum project.
Well, the good news is, board members, that we are now on our third swing through savings that we received from the referendum. And you'll see on your screen here tonight that after careful consideration with the dollars remaining, some additional things that we'd like to see happen, inclusive of our most expensive ask, which is to convert our middle school lighting to LED, to things that might just be a little less costly. But our goal is to try to spend this down by December 31st. That would be optimal for us because of IRS reporting guidelines, and we think we can finally put the referendum work to rest. And what a great problem to have. We have more money to spend because of savings and the good stewardship of this board.
All right. So,
looking for a motion, if you don't mind, to approve as presented tonight, please, and thank you.
Motion to approve. Jeff has moved.
Diana, second.
I have to have a choice. Diana has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed will say no. The motion carries, and very important things will happen in our long-range facilities plan. Item 7C, first reading of controlled substances and alcohol testing of commercial motor vehicle drivers, policy number 549.1.
Thank you, board members. This is an outgrowth of the work that was done at the Personnel Committee over the course of the past several months. What you see here is designed to honor the language that's part of the Department of Transportation and some of the feedback we received from WASB when they did our review. So we're asking for the board's consideration. Of course, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is a motion to approve.
Leah has made a motion to approve.
Second, Kimberly.
Kimberly has seconded the motion to approve.
Mr. President, this is a first reading that would require a roll call if it's appropriate to do that.
Yep, got it. All right. So Leah has moved, and Kimberly has seconded a motion to approve this policy on first reading. Danny?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Jeff? Yes. Jessica?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The yeses are 7, the noes are 0. The motion carries and the policy passes on first reading. Oh, item 8A, citizen comments. The telephone number is 608-250-9166. Please text your name if you'd like to participate in citizen comments.
Thank you. Terry Wanta, bless her heart, said that she might send me an email here tonight. And I'm not quite seeing it. Patty, are you on the call right now? Ms. Wanta? And I don't have anybody else. Oh, I just had one more. Brooke Running.
Oh, Brooke. Brooke, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you to Will Jansen. He did an awesome job of presenting the K2 staff concerns, and we really appreciate that. So, Will, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a representative. It's very much appreciated. Again, thank you to our board. I know this is not easy. It's been a long night, and although there will be people who disagree with the decision, I know that we are all doing what we feel is best for our kids. I heard several parents mention their concerns of their own children. I want to remind you, you can reach out to us at any time. We are here for you. We love your children. We want what's best for them. Please don't hesitate to contact their teacher. Don't hesitate to contact the principal, the superintendent, myself, Nicole Teep, Megan Miller. We are here for you. And we want to continue to work in partnership with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Brooke.
Mr. Jim Myers. Mr. Myers?
Thank you. This is extremely disappointing. And as I said at the beginning, I have one request for Leah, Jessica, Kim, and Diana. You chose to vote down this motion for returning K-2 students to the classroom. I'd like you to go around to every single child care provider, whether it's a teacher at a center or in-home provider. Look them in the eyes and thank them for keeping the community running, because you do not have the capacity to do so. Tell them that rather than work with the district to address the safety concerns of the teachers, you feel it's easier to ignore the guidance from the public health officials and just shift all the risk and responsibility to them.
Thank you, Jim.
Ryan Suzuki?
Oh, Ryan Suzuki.
Good evening, Ryan. Ryan, are you there? Oh, he's calling my phone. Well, hi, Ryan, how are you? Can I put you on speakerphone?
Please.
Okay, I think we got you here. What say you?
All right, I just wanted to thank the administration and the staff for the excellent.
Steve, I think you muted yourself. We can't hear.
So really just, I think this was a missed opportunity for the board to not listen to the guidance from public health officials and staff. I understand that sticking with plans is important, having plans is important. Plans do change. I think if we've seen from this epidemic, every month is something new. And so being able to pivot is key. So my only suggestion for staff would be stay in there, stay with it, continue doing what you can, and I would just encourage the board to adjust those metrics to meet the needs of what's appropriate in this role. So thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Are there any other citizen comments? Any other citizen comments? Hearing none. We'll move on to item 9, future agenda items, which are listed voluminously. Item 10, schedule future meetings. Likewise, a voluminous listing there. And item 11. Jeff has moved. And
Second, Kimberly.
Kimberly has seconded a motion to adjourn. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor will say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Damn. I think the game's over, but that was intense. Okay, I'm back. How was TikTok? What did you find out? I just saw the score. It is now 30-16. We're still winning. That was a very intense meeting. My core was engaged the entire time. My shoulders were high.
All these people out and then they just don't respond.
I was really tense because my husband's over here messaging on the chat, asking
Not English
for things and sources and whatnot. But anyway, basically, from what I got from it was a 4-3 vote that we do not bring K through 2 back right now because of all of those. You are on speaker.
Hey, Lucy, you're live. We can hear you right now.